God bless you, family. I'm a changed man for life. Thank you for stopping in and checking out my channel. Thank you for stopping in and checking out this video. If you are not yet subscribed, please take this opportunity to do so. Smash that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so that you are notified when new content is dropped. Let's spread this hope. Got a treat for y'all tonight. It's something we've been talking about, getting on for a while. Welcome to the first episode of the series From the Pit to the Palace, where we will be sharing stories of redemption with you. My guest tonight is Mr. Hamid Bashir. He is the founder of Skater Ministries. We're going to go ahead and bring him on. Please welcome Hamid to the show. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Blessed, brother. I'm happy to be here. It's been a heck of a journey, bro. I count it an honor to be here. Amen.
For sure. Thank you, man. You know, we've been talking about doing this for a while. We've
Yes,
been
sir.
putting it out there on social media to the people that it was coming, that it was coming, that it was coming. And it finally lined up with our schedules and everything else lined up perfect. We could spend some time together, man, share your story with the people. I'm really excited. This is my first time interviewing somebody. You know, I've been interviewed a couple of times on a couple of different platforms. But this is
Nice.
my first time actually doing the interview. So I'm a
Okay.
little nervous, but I'm very excited. One thing I definitely want to do is I always want to be upfront and transparent with my viewers. So I
Mhm.
do want to let the people know that this is not a cold interview. We actually know each other outside of social media. We're
Absolutely.
actually friends. We're coworkers. We were in prison together. We're brothers in Christ. So I just don't want to give anybody the impression that this is a cold interview, like I don't know you and I'm just talking to you for the first time. So everybody out there checking it out, you know, be aware this is my brother right here. We are friends. We know each other very well. We spend a lot of time together. But let's get into it, man. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's start off. Let me have you introduce yourself, man. 'Cause I'm over here introducing you. Let me have you introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about where you grew up at, where you from. Just tell us a little bit about you, Hamid.
All right, no problem. Well, my name is Hamid Bashir. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I was born in 1980. My childhood was a mixed bag. You know, it was filled with it's good and it's bad experiences. You know, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of ups too. You know, a lot of good. I don't always want to just dwell on the harder times or the bad times. I like to,
Right.
give props to both sides of my childhood because it was an interesting experience. Um, where can I start? Let's start off.
You
I
say
think
you grew up in Los Angeles. What part? Around what part of
I,
Los Angeles?
I grew up originally in like the west, south, central side of Los Angeles.
Okay.
My earliest childhood memories in the city are just probably being with my dad early on, transitioning back and forth between my mom's and my father's house. Um, uh, I'm saying too many us.
No, you're good. Don't even
Too
worry
many
about it.
us. You know what I'm saying?
So
But
you were born there in LA. Where are your parents from?
right. So my mother is originally from Los Angeles, California. Grew up on the west side of LA. Went to Los Angeles High School. My father is also from the similar part of the city. Grew up off of Washington Boulevard in the Berrindo area. Um, they both. I know my mom definitely went to LA High, but yeah.
Okay. And did you have siblings? You got brothers and sisters?
Then that's an interesting part of my childhood. You know, my childhood is kind of strange in that area, man. Due to well, I grew up in the crack era
Right.
of LA
Okay.
in the 1980s. So
Right.
that those effects on my family show themselves in that, my situation with my siblings. I have a sister that I believe is my blood sister, but I'm not sure. I have a brother
Right.
that has been rumored to be my biological brother as well. I'm just not sure. But I
Okay.
did meet both of my beautiful siblings as a young person. Good memories. I think I met my sister only one time, but it was a great a memory the time I did get to meet my sister. I just remember a beautiful dark skinned girl, older than me, and me and my brother just fighting over her attention. you know,
Right.
really
Right.
smacking each other around, trying to get her attention as kids. But I don't think I ever saw her um, just that one day. My father was trying to get clean while he was in his addiction.
Right.
And I remember him just being excited, saying that he had all his kids in the house at one time. So that was the time I remember my sister.
Okay. All right. So you had some family. Y'all were growing
Mhm.
up here in LA. So
Mhm.
what's your childhood like? What was it like going to school when you was a kid? Tell us a little bit about what your childhood experience was like.
Um, the going to school part was hard for me because I didn't have a really good foundation with the academics. Being that I was, going here and there. My mother, my father, they weren't together. Most of my growing up, um, they weren't together. My mother and father weren't together most of my most times I was raised.
Mhm.
So that created a little bit of uh, it was a struggle, man. It was a real struggle for me to get my footing in school and be like social. Um, I think that learning how to read and things like that, it was a hard struggle for me at first, but I did have a mother who wanted me to, be educated on things, and she made sure that I had books to read about astronomy. I think my mom had like a vision for the type of life that she wanted me to have, and
Right.
she tried really hard through her own struggles with depression and sadness. My mother was a child abuse survivor, and she had been
Mm.
traumatized heavily in her younger years. And
Right.
so, in that, she struggled to put the pieces together when I showed up, but she really tried hard
Mm.
as far as like, making sure as a young person. I remember in my room, like having like posters on my wall of different famous astronauts and astrology charts and books about Black history and books about history, period. My mother wanted me to have the best. She had a strong vision for the type of person she wanted me to be. Um, and she tried really hard to bring that vision out.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you said, your mom had a plan, and you were
Yeah.
really trying to get involved. She was trying to keep you involved in school, and like most parents, I'm sure, all have dreams of what they want their children to grow up and become, and they try to guide
Mhm.
them in that direction.
Right.
But as we talked about in the introduction, you and I were in prison together, so that means at some point your life took a turn.
Right. Right.
What when was that? When was that, and what were the circumstances around that where you started getting into the streets?
So let me try to tell the story more clearly as my nervousness sets aside. Let
No,
me
don't
try
even
to
trip. Don't even
get
trip.
there in a concise way. So
Right.
again, when I spoke about my father's addiction, when I spoke about my mother's struggles with her depression and her sadnesses from her childhood and trying to raise a young man, and you know, I was exposed to a lot, man. I was exposed to narcotics. I was exposed to crime.
Right.
I was exposed to different types of religious beliefs, some healthy, some unhealthy. Um, I need to talk about my first experiences with Christ before I can get to the street part because it all correlates.
Okay. Right.
So my father was a Muslim,
Mm.
a hardcore Muslim. Pops was
Right.
hardcore with his Islam. His father was a Christian preacher, and he
Mm.
had his own storefront church where he would preach
Okay.
and have his church services. And
Right.
I remember where he would be like preaching the gospel and sharing with the people. You know, my dad would have me up on the pews, and because I think we were living with my granddad, and one of the things my granddad required if we're going to be living under his roof, that we had to come to service.
Right.
Grandpa Estes wasn't playing that. This is my
Right.
Estes side of the family, my father's side. Shout out to my cousin Felicia and everybody on and my auntie Crystal, who's preaching tomorrow. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
shout out to the Estes side of the family. I love y'all. And so pops would have me on the pews at granddad's church, and I'd be saying like hallelujah with the people. I'm like probably
Right.
like 5 or 6, and he'd be holding my back of my shirt saying, say Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
Or your pops would.
Yeah, my pops would
Right.
have
Right.
me, trying to make me go against the faith. But I think even as a young person, something was like drawing me towards Christ. I always had a love for Jesus, as a young person. But a love for Jesus, I want to say this is very important. Having a love for Jesus, right, and having a desire um, to know Jesus isn't the same thing as being faithful in service to the
Right.
Lord. It
Right.
isn't the
Right. Right.
same thing as having knowledge of the Word. And
Right.
doesn't necessarily even mean I was raised in the church, because I really wasn't raised in the church. I was blessed to have early experiences, which were like little seeds being planted of my faith at an early age. So I would
Hmm.
have something to come back to. Like the word
Right.
says, you train a child up in the way he should go, will come back to it.
Right.
Um, so that's
Really
that.
quick before you go on, forgive me for interrupting you. So you mentioned that your pops was Muslim.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that that's the origin of your name. That's where your name comes from.
Right. So let's talk about my name. That's another deep situation, right? My name is Hamid Bashir. So my
Right.
first name means like humble. It's like a word that would you would call a humble man. Hamid is like a humble man.
Mm.
And then like Basir was a term for bravery. And my last name Bashir. This is interesting. So in the book of Isaiah, where the word of God says that I will the spirit of God is set upon me to preach the gospel, right? That phrase in Hebrew is Bashar. So
Mm. Okay.
my name Bashir is rooted to that
Right.
Hebrew word,
Right.
and
Right.
my last name literally means gospel preacher or bringer of the good news.
Oh,
That's
come on,
what
somebody.
that's what my name really means. So even though my father may have been in rebellion at the time of give me that name, right? Because he was in rebellion
Hmm.
of his father. He went to prison. He
Right.
came out with that
Right.
Islamic, the strong Islamic belief where a lot of African American men wanted to have some, they're coming out of such bad situations. They wanted some
Right.
discipline, wanted to have
Right.
some purpose. So he was in rebellion, but in that, he saw he got this beautiful name and he gave it to me. And even my name, it was an opportunity for me to, have a draw to Jesus and a link back to the Lord always.
Right.
So going from there, experiencing the ups and downs of being raised by a single mom, my father was in his addiction. I was exposed to a lot of negatives, but also a lot of beautiful things. My mother was not just depressive and someone who struggled with that. She was also a brilliant designer. My mother's like an artist.
Mm.
And my
Okay.
father was an artist too. Actually, my mom taught my dad how to be a pastel artist. And
Oh,
then
nice.
right. So there's a lot of beauty in the story as well. My mother, at the height of her artistry, she would help do a lot of the painting at St. Elmo's Village when she was a high school student. And then at the height of her designing, she would work for Rita Marley and be on her It's Electric tour. And she was Rita Marley's stage clothes designer. She would design Rita Marley's stage outfits for her and her dancers. So
And tell
um,
us real quick who that is for somebody that might not know.
Rita Marley is the wife and widow of the late Bob Marley, and
Okay.
so not name dropping. I'm just telling the things I was
Right. Right.
influenced.
Right. Yeah. Of
My
course.
influences, and
Right.
those talents would also rub off on me. If you see this logo right here, this is for CrossFlip Board Co. A logo I designed from my Christian skate company.
Right.
So those are the beautiful sides. I want to get the beautiful out there before I just tell this other darker
Right.
story, right?
Right.
So, but to get here, I had to go through what I had to go through, and a lot of it is hard. So I had a lot of resentment and hurt built up inside of me, a lot of trauma built up inside of me, a lot of unresolved circumstances and issues. I was never like a super tough kid. I was a
Mm.
hurt kid though, I was
Right.
really
Right. Right.
hurt
Right.
and sad and depressed. So I took a lot of that hurt and sadness into my adolescent years. I
Mm.
didn't know how to talk or express myself very well, so I didn't ask for help. I was bullied and picked on a lot too because I was kind of withdrawn. Um, uh, Traumatized by the way I was disciplined at home,
Mm.
traumatized by not having a father, traumatized by just circumstances. Man, I went through a lot of
Right.
hardships growing up. One of the harder things I never really one of my hardest traumas I experienced as a young person growing up I never talked about that kind of carried with me and kind of played into how I got so depressed just in life. I remember one time, me and my mother got into we were in a car and the car ran out of gas, and she I had to walk back to my grandmother's house to get money to gas in the
Mm.
gas can so we can get the car out of there, right?
Right.
And I was walking home. These two older girls. I'm just talking about some things I've been through so we can get to the criminal part, right?
Right.
How we reservoir trauma and hurts and we don't talk about it. And it's something I reservoired in myself and didn't talk about it. And I was walking home and these two older girls, I was probably like 7 or 8, and these girls were probably like high school seniors, and they were bigger, older girls.
Mm.
They lived in a group home by my grandmother's house. And I was walking home, and they kind of caught me and intercepted me as I was walking home, and they kind of were aggressive towards me, but not so aggressive where it scared me at first. And they
Mm.
were like kind of luring me to walk with them and talk with them. And they began to like have like sexual conversations about what they were going to do to me, and saying certain things. I didn't know really how to respond.
Right.
And I was trying to like kind of get away, and they'll see I was trying to get away. They kind of like snatched me to pull me into the
How old?
gate.
How old were you at that time?
I was probably like 7 or 8, bro. I was
Okay.
really young, man.
Right.
And they like try to pull me into the gate. I guess, to do these things they were saying they were going to do. And I remember I was pulling away and like scratched my face. Um, and just all the sexual talk and all the violence and all that mixed together, and just the nature of it. I did get away and get home, but I remember I got home and my face was all scratched up, and uh, that's just no. Those are some of the things I experienced growing up.
Right.
Just things I never talked about. I probably haven't even talked about that in an open forum in
Right.
front of 20 people, but maybe a couple times in my life. My wife
Mm.
has probably heard this story and heard different things I talk about. But like I said, I was a kid with a lot of trauma.
Right.
Um,
And
uh,
thank you for being so transparent and so open. You know what I mean? I know it's hard to do, especially like you said, that's something that you haven't really shared very often. So I do appreciate that.
Definitely, definitely. Another hard trauma I think I reservoired was seeing my father smoke crack cocaine at a young age. Um, One time, the first time was on my birthday, literally waiting for him to come home to hang out with me. I seen his van parked on my grandmother's block, and I remember I went to go open the van, and like he was there, and like all the smoke and the crack pipe and all that. Those kind of images are like stuck in my mind.
Right, right,
So
right.
through a lot of these traumas, through being abused, I was even starved by certain adults, like in my household. Whenever we would go, when we needed
Mm,
somewhere to stay, they wouldn't allow me to eat dinner with the other kids and make me watch the other kids eat dinner and be hungry and like be kind of ostracized because my father was the addict to the family. Stuff like that.
mm, right,
It was hardcore. So when I kind of took this depressive mindset and I tried to like practice like avoidance and distraction and like try to play sports or try to have girlfriends and try to drink. I began drinking at a young age. I was the kid who would come to your house. I would get in the fridge and I drink all your parents' wine in the box.
right, right,
I'd be in
right,
the,
right.
I'd be in the box wine while everybody sleep. Or if you had remember
Mm,
back in the day, everybody's mom and dad made screwdrivers. Remember those?
right,
And
right,
then the
right,
screwdriver in the pitcher, and I'd be done drunk all your parents' screwdrivers, and I'm trying to escape my hurts and my pains, and I was a wild kid with a lot of energy, and I think I was, and I would, for a while, I lived in Kansas. My grandparents
mm,
would keep me out there with them when things would get really hard with my mother.
right,
And beautiful time in Kansas, but hard. I wasn't very many African American kids out there in the place we lived and experienced racism. But good times too, great times, man. I started playing ice hockey out there. No, roller hockey. I'm gonna get into that for a minute, but uh, racial trauma, I was also a victim of racial trauma as a young person.
right,
Um, Trying to fit in with the kids out there who weren't always the same color as me but still wanted to fit in. I was a nice kid, man. I just wanted to hang out and have a
right,
good time. And I remember they had a event for the freshmen. I was going to Shawnee Mission South High in Kansas. Shout out Shawnee Mission South High and all everybody I used to run wild with out there. I love y'all. um, Man, it was a great time out there. But I remember one time we were walking home from the freshman sophomore event. Me, a couple of my bros, I used to kick it with when we were kids, and I was having a good time, feeling accepted in this community. And like I remember I was walking down the street, I wasn't paying attention, and this like a Chevy Blazer swerved at me to hit me, and they screamed the N word at me.
dang,
And I'll never forget that man walking with a group of kids who I felt accepted by, who none of them had my same skin color, and then that
mm.
happened and like kind of shatters my reality. Very
Was that
traumatizing.
your first time experiencing some racial slurs like that?
It wasn't my first time. The first time was similar, but I think this one hurt more because it was at a time where you're trying so hard to be accepted. In ninth grade, it's
Right,
like you just want to be cool with everybody, man. In
right,
that moment, I was feeling good. I had that, the first event at school. We're talking to girls, we're hanging out, we're walking home, and it kind of shattered my reality, bro. It was like it was crazy. But that wasn't my first racial trauma. I think my first racial trauma was when I was way younger. Um, I was with a friend of mine who was a close friend of my mother. I was with her daughter, and we were playing in her little apartment complex. And she had a friend who was a Caucasian a young girl. And
mm-hmm,
I remember we were playing, and then like somehow the door to their apartment was open, and we all ended up walking in for some reason. And the little girl who went in the back, and she came out, her eyes got so big, she was trying to warn me, like, no, 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 don't come in. And then like I remember her dad came out of the kitchen and he looked at me and said, like, who is this N-word in my house? Like that. And it was
right,
like, oh wow. We
right,
were like, 7 or 8. So it wasn't the first time that I had suffered racial trauma. It was just a time in my life to where it was like, I think that childhood experience was out of my mind. You know what I mean? I didn't
right,
remember that. And so I probably was really comfortable out there just hanging out with everybody that I was, growing it up with, and, just trying to be a cool young guy. So,
Right.
these are some of the traumas that were, um, upon me. Again, I feel like I carried these things with me, and I had like a lot of esteem issues. I had a lot of esteem
Right.
issues growing up. I was in special learning classes for a lot of time because I had so much anxiety. School was
Mm,
hard for me, bro. School was hard for me as far as like to learn and to keep up with the pace of things. So I was in special ed class for a while until ninth grade. Um, my grandmother Anna, when I was staying with my grandparents in Kansas, man, my grandma Anna was the awesomest, bro. She was so legit. She got me a tutor for the summertime because she knew I was smarter than that. I just needed help and needed some one-on-one, companionship, somebody I could talk to
right.
and do my schoolwork with and hang out with, man. And she got me the super legit tutor who helped me test out a special ed and the reading classes I was in and stuff. And so in ninth grade, I was tested out. I was never in special ed classes anymore. So
Mm,
shout out to my grandma Anna in heaven. Love her so much. And
that's
you
right.
know, that part of my childhood. And I was out there with my grandparents in Kansas for like seventh, eighth, and ninth with my uncle Al, my uncle Chuck, my grandma Anna, my grandpa AC, my little cousin Kimmy, and my auntie Holly. We all lived in Kansas. And that nucleus of a family was really helpful me, man. Because whenever me and my
Mm,
mom were doing hard, doing bad, I could always fall back with them.
right.
And that's kind of where my skateboarding influence comes from too. My uncle Al, he used to get Powell Peralta skate decks sent to him when I was really young. My grandparents lived in Mountain Center, California. They worked at a Christian camp, summer camp up there,
Mm,
and there wasn't a lot of stores. So if you wanted something cool, you had to order it, and it would get delivered UPS up the mountain to you. And my uncle used to get Powell Peralta skate decks sent up there to him. I always remember what they looked like. Beautiful black decks with the big red dragon logo. He would be putting them together, and he was a shredder. Remember, Uncle Albert was legit. That was
that's
back when,
crazy.
yeah, he was legit. That's back when skaters were like skating Jordan ones. That was like, they were skating Jordan ones and
Right.
Converse. You know what I mean? Airwalks. Back in that time. And then his brother Charles, he was into like downhill mountain biking. You know what I mean? So before action sports and X Games were like what those things were called, my uncles were a early influence in that. Just liking things that were a little bit not extreme, but adrenaline and different. You know what I'm saying? They played regular sports too, the traditional sports. I don't want to say regular. My uncle I also played
Right. Right.
baseball and stuff like that. But I think that's where I really desired my first skateboards and bikes and stuff like that. Being around them, um,
Mm,
and then so going forward that back to ninth grade. I'm gonna jump back to ninth grade. So this is very important because my grandfather was an executive chef in Shawnee Mission, and
oh, damn.
yeah, he was executive chef. So that's why I was able to fall back. My granddad was a hustler. He was a legitimate hustler. He worked hard. He was a cook. And he had like a great reputation. So he was executive chef for Shawnee Mission Medical Center, one of the largest hospitals and hospital systems in Kansas. And he was the big dog up there. So it was a good job. He could provide for all of us,
Mm, right.
But and I don't know what happened. There was budget cuts, things were going on. Um, the granddad wasn't able to provide the same anymore, so he had to try to figure out what to do in the meantime and try to like downsize the family a little bit and regroup when things got better.
Mm, right.
So it was no malice, but I had to go back to L.A. And then plus my mother, she was missing me. She wanted me back. She'd been
Right.
fighting case in the feds. My mom was fighting the feds case at the time. I was out there in ninth grade too. God willing, she beat her case and she didn't get that life
Mm.
term they're trying to hit her with.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I came home. She really wanted me back and kind of almost demanded me to come home too. So she wanted her
Right.
son.
Right.
But I picked up a sport while I was in Kansas. I started playing roller hockey real tough and street hockey. And so Santa Monica Beach in the '90s was the mecca of the street hockey scene. And I used to always read about it in Rollerblading magazine. It was a magazine, it
Mm,
was like Thrasher magazine for skateboarding. There was a rollerblading
right.
magazine that was real popular, and it used to always show Santa Monica Beach. Like if you play street hockey, that's where you want to go because they got these huge parking lots. And on Sunday afternoon, it'd probably be like maybe like 10 or 15 hockey games going on at the same time in Santa
Oh,
Monica
damn.
Beach. It was huge, bro. It was really huge right down there. And I was down there. I was getting it, bro. I was really good at roller hockey. and I was down there handling my business, just getting wild, scoring goals, and doing stuff. And I noticed this older white gentleman watch me play hockey when I was down there. Him and another lady were watch him and a lady were watching me play hockey, and he called me over at the end. He said, "You're pretty good, man. You ever play ice hockey?" And I said, "No, I don't know how to ice skate or anything like that."
Right.
Um, but it happened to be Mayor Richard Reardon. He was the mayor of Los Angeles at the time.
Oh, dang. Okay.
I had no idea, and it
Right.
was a beautiful thing, that's how God works. Because at the time, me and my mom, we weren't doing too good. We didn't have a lot of income coming into the house, and my mom was pregnant at the time, and Mayor Reardon, man, he took a liking to me, and we just started talking.
Mm.
And he told me to come by. He said, "I'm gonna give you a pair of ice skates so you can start ice skating." So he was having like had like a speech to give at a synagogue or something like that. I don't really
Right.
understand that life. You know what I mean? But he was calling me on the phone one day. He's like, "Yeah, I got to do a speech to the synagogue, but come up here and you get the ice skates from me." I don't. I think I went to get him, but I missed him. He's moving all around with his caravan and stuff like
Right.
that. So I
Right.
missed him. But like a
His
week or two later,
entourage.
yes, entourage, they're making big moves. What I mean, out there, and he ended up calling me, told me to meet him at City Hall, and I picked the ice skates up, and really good guy, man. Just wanted to help me out the best he could, and I didn't know how to ice skate. He set me up with ice skating lessons at the Culver City Ice Rink. It's closed down now, but outside it still looks like because it's like a landmark, and so if you go to Culver City Ice Rink on the outside, it still looks like the Culver City Ice Rink, but it's really a freight tools store. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Okay. Right.
Because the rink's not there. I played for the Marina City Sharks under Barbara and Hans Matzel. I played for Don Beck. That was my favorite coach while I was there. Don Beck was an executive at UPN 13. He had his own production called Beck Ola Productions, and he
Mm.
was a big dog at UPN. You remember UPN 13?
That's old school. Yeah, I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
damn, I forgot about UPN.
No, big facts. I'm gonna tell you another story about that in a little bit. But before I even got that far, Richard Reardon, man, he hooked me up with ice skating lessons with a guy named Gary Visconti, who had competed in the Olympics at one time. But he was the
Mm.
house ice skating instructor at that ice rink. He's giving me free lessons. But the craziest part about it, so I had to learn how to ice skate and kind of relearn how to play hockey too, because it's a different situation.
Right.
Mayor Reardon played hockey in pickup games at a place called Isoplex in North Valley, and that he had every Sunday he had pickup games with his celebrity friends,
Mm.
and he would put me on the ice for free, bro. So I would like go up there and skate with people like Cuba Gooding Jr. I
Oh,
would go
dang.
skate with people like who else would be up there? Oh, Mike Myers from Austin Powers movies.
Right. Right. Right.
Jerry Bruckheimer, the super producer, he'd be up there.
Hmm. That's
Who else would
crazy.
be up there? Yeah, oh, Zach from
And,
Saved by the
and, and at,
Bell.
at the time, did you know who those people were?
Some of them, the ones who were like, Zach Morris, bro, Saved by the Bell, we grew up
Right.
on
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
So that was crazy when I seen Zach there the first time. That was like the coolest celebrity at the time to me. But I knew Cuba Gooding. He wasn't as famous as he is now back then, but I think he had Jerry Maguire out already, maybe.
Okay.
So, it was cool to meet those guys and hang out with them and get checked by them and get like smacked around. And
Right.
it was a fun time in my little life. And plus, like I said, me and my mom were doing pretty bad at that time. We're living in an
Mm.
apartment in Echo Park. We didn't have much money. Everything was tight, bro. We didn't have a
Right.
car. It was hard times for us. Mayor Reardon, and this is an important part of my story. Mayor Reardon, this is how God works, man. The Lord is really good, bro. When it says Jesus is an advocate for us, this is one of my life story that really showed Christ is an advocate. Amen.
Mm.
And like Mayor Reardon, he created a job for me. When he realized I needed help, he made a job for me. So he gave me a job in the mayor's office for the whole summer. And literally, bro, that job kept me and my mom afloat. It kept us eating. It kept the rent
Mm.
paid. You know what I
Right.
mean? I didn't know how to tie my tie. And my mom took me to these thrift stores to buy clothes for work. I had to buy dress pants from the thrift store.
Right. Right.
The little bucket of ties for $1. I bought a gang of ties. Um, I remember waking up early in the morning, get to the bus stop. I didn't even have money for the bus, bro. My first weekend at work, I was walking from. If you're familiar with the Silver Echo Park area, anybody hears this, they'll know how far I was walking, bro. I was walking literally from Silver Lake Park all
Hmm.
the way to City Hall.
Dang. Yeah, that is a mission.
That was a
There's a
mission, bro.
mission.
In
My
hard
ex-
bottom
my
dress
my
shoes.
my ex-wife's grandma lived in Silver Lake, so I know where that's
Okay,
at. And how
so we
old were you
know.
at this time?
I was 14, bro. I was young.
Okay, all right, and you was
Yeah,
footing it.
I was footing it, bro. I was footing it out there, and I'll never forget coming out the house. and having my tie untied, and it was like a Hispanic brother, probably a Mexican brother who was, I could tell, was just getting off work. He's like, "Come get on his car." I asked him in the middle of the street. I was like, "Bro, can you help me tie my tie, please?" And I remember he was looking at me like, "Man," he's like, "Don't forget, kid." And like he was an older
Right.
Hispanic guy, and he like tied my tie for me right on the corner of I think Silver Lake Boulevard and I forgot that street. Echo Sunset. I don't know, but it was he helped me, hooked me up, bro. I'll never forget that act of kindness. The guy showed me how to tie my tie, and that kept me right all summer long, and it
Right.
was a fun time. I used to answer phones, so I used to answer the phone. So if you call City Hall with a problem, your neighbor's tripping and he's growing his trees over your property line. I
Right.
would
Right.
direct that call to the proper department. Like that was my job.
Mm.
I worked in constituent services. You know what I mean? It was
Oh,
chill.
dang.
No, they didn't give me no real. They gave me a
That's
book, a big old Rolodex where to send calls to. Not too much instruction. It was a
right.
trip.
But that
Um,
sounds like super important
yeah,
constituent services.
it was super important, bro. The stuff I would have to do was way out. I would I would also I got to pass out the checks to all the city councilmen. When they would get paid,
Oh,
I would put
dang.
their paychecks in the mail room. There was these nice like oak
Mm-hmm.
wood boxes with like a little gold tag and had their name
Right.
on it. And I
Right.
would put their mail in the box for
Oh,
payday.
dang.
Um, and then it's so funny. I worked with like college interns who weren't getting paid, but I was getting paid. So my supervisor took a little plastic box and put it at the end of all the councilmen's boxes and like
Uh-huh.
taped my name on there, and they would drop my paycheck in there too.
That's right.
So
That's
hilarious.
crazy.
So that situation. So now this is the sad part. Based on my own insecurities as a young person, and like it was kind of hard rubbing shoulders with people who were living a certain kind of life when I
Sure.
wasn't, and I
Right.
wasn't able to facilitate that relationship. I couldn't maintain it because
Mm.
of my own depressive reality. I was a very depressed, sad kid about what I was going through. Um, Having a mother who suffered so hard with depression and sadness, and um, she was just everything was it was not easy for me to maintain that relationship. So that
Right.
relationship kind of fizzled away. I kept trying to play hockey. It got too expensive.
Mm.
My great grandma Willie Hardy, rest in peace, my heart. She's taking me to practice. Like I didn't have a dad or any male figure that was helping me with my
Right.
athletics at the time. And so my grandma, I was having like ice hockey practice at 5:30 in the morning. My great grandma, bro, was in her 80s and she was getting up, taking
Oh,
me to ice
dang.
hockey practice. You know what I mean? And it was just a
Mm.
lot. It was hard for me to maintain all that.
Right.
So I wasn't able to keep playing hockey. Um, that was a sad situation in my life as a juvenile. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Wanting to stay on the right track. On my last hockey game I played, they had an all-star game and I knew things were getting bad for me. So my last season for the Marina City Sharks, was a travel. I worked my way up to get to where I was playing travel hockey on the A team.
Oh,
And
dang.
because ice hockey, club hockey it goes C, B, and A. C is like C and B teams, they play at a rink and they don't travel out. The
Right.
A, double A, and triple A teams, those teams represent that club abroad and they get travel games
Oh,
home.
okay.
So I made
Right.
it all the way to where I was playing A's and I was traveling around California playing different organizations, like different junior teams and stuff like that. And there was this big tournament they're going to have at the Great Western Forum. I'll never forget it. And I was already behind in fees uh, for my club. I couldn't even pay my late fees, bro. And there was
Mm.
this big tournament going on. I didn't get invited to try out. I showed up at tryouts and begged to skate. And I remember they let me get on a skate and try out, bro. So it was like, maybe 100 kids trying out for this team. I ended up making the team, and I got to play in the All Star tournament
That's crazy.
at the Forum. But I didn't have enough fees to play the whole tournament, bro. So they didn't let me finish. But I had a great game. Help win the game for the team. But that was my last time playing. We played against there's a school. I forget the name of the school, man. It's like a prep school on Venice Boulevard near Vermont. Huge school right there next to a cemetery. And we played that school. I was on an all-star team of kids from the cities. And then it was a Beach Cities team I played for, and then we played against them, and we ended up winning. That was my last time playing hockey. We ended up selling. My mom had to sell my equipment, my ice skates, and all my
Mm.
stuff. Just trying to
Right.
get some money for the house,
Right.
food and whatnot. Hard times, bro. And then I think that's when my depression really kicked up a notch, and my resentment and my rebellion. I started like running away from home, got into like a lot of promiscuity, drug use.
Mm,
I started playing football for LA High, trying to get back on a positive path under
right,
Coach Watson and Coach Hardy at LA High. I ended up working my way to a starting position there, playing defensive end. But I actually just was just too hurt inside and sad, and ended
right.
up uh, started running the streets, man. Started running the streets with like
And
real.
what era was this? This was the 90s?
This was the 90s. This is like
Okay.
97 and 98.
Okay.
Started messing up, um, running the streets with guys who were real seasoned, street kids.
Right.
I'm not from that world. I'm not from the streets. I'm from the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right,
I grew up in LA, but I'm not from the streets. Being from the streets is
right.
different than just from being from the
Absolutely.
neighborhood. Being from the
Absolutely.
streets means like you're raised up um, with street rules, street concepts, street culture. You know
Mm,
what I mean?
right,
I'd been into some things that were indicative of my generation, but that still doesn't make me from the streets. You
right,
know,
right.
I was
And,
attracted.
and typically when somebody's from the streets or
Mhm.
somebody that identifies as being from the streets, it started when they were real young. You
Right,
were a little bit older already when you started
right.
really being out there like that.
Facts. The kids didn't even know me. Those street kids didn't even know me, and the ones who did know of me, they knew me as being a good kid. They knew me as being a
Right,
regular kid. I wasn't a fighter. I wasn't a gunner. I wasn't any of those things. You know what I mean? I was just a regular kid from the neighborhood who went to school. You know, walked his girlfriend home holding hands. You know what I'm saying?
right,
That was me. That's when we knew me as a regular guy. So they were shocked when they saw me in the streets. I was still trying to do some positive things to keep my head above water. I tried to start rapping. I had a little rap group, my boy
mm,
Effion and Effion, my boy Effion. We grew up on the block together. We had a cool little rap. We started a rap group called Optimistic. Um,
okay.
yeah, it was me. My rap name was Blizz. My
Bliss,
boy Blizz, my Effion's rap name was Pretty Thug. My boy Gregory, his rap name was G Wiz, and we had a group named Optimistic. We got linked up with a rap label named Loud House Music Entertainment. They had us doing shows here and there, and just trying to do something. You know what I mean? I
right,
wasn't the most gifted rapper, but I had a lot of heart. I tried really hard.
right. Say
So,
your rap name once again.
Blizz.
Blizz. How is it I've never heard this before? Man, I've been knowing you for years. I've never heard Blizz before. Okay.
That was, what I was trying to do. Wow, that was wild. We had a little
But
tape. I remember we had a little tape, and we used to give our tape away to people. And my tape was in all the little weed spots in the neighborhood.
that's
It was funny stuff,
that's
man.
crazy. Right.
But good. Trying to do something, man. But eventually, I would fall in the street so hard to where I was, committing real crimes. Where I was committing robberies. I was uh, getting involved in petty drug sales. I was doing I was getting so high all the time. I was stayed high, stayed drunk. Um,
Mm,
Started one with a rough crowd, bro. Ended up
right.
going on an actual robbery spree in the summer of '98, um, which 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 uh, which peaked with me committing armed robbery, where I would get into a shootout with a security guard, and in that shootout, the store owner would lose his life, and
Mm,
that's where I hit my rock bottom emotionally, psychologically. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I knew something was wrong. Um, I ended up going to Hollywood Mental Health after I committed that offense, but I was still out on the run. Just want to know what was going on with me inside of myself, and I was diagnosed with
right.
major depression disorder.
Mm,
Um, and I had to start looking at my past, deal with some things, but I ended up getting arrested for the offense. I ended up pleading guilty to second degree murder, and took a deal for 25 to life at 20 years old. Um,
12 to life for a second degree
yeah, it was 15 to life for the crime and then 10 for the gun.
and for the gun. Okay.
Mhm. And then so that began a whole different trajectory in my life.
Right. How long was it from the time that the crime occurred to the time you actually got arrested for it?
Close to a year.
About a year. And
Yeah,
then how long were you in the court process fighting it? Or were you fighting it at all? Or did you just cop to it
little over 2 years. Little over
2 years?
2 years.
Dang.
Um,
So in total, like 3 years from the time the crime was committed to the
yeah,
time you were sentenced.
yeah. And hardcore time, bro, in the county jail. Again, not being from the streets. having this stint in my life where I was running the streets.
Did you, forgive me for cutting you off real quick, did you ever get jumped into a neighborhood, or were
No.
you claiming a neighborhood, or were you like, because we, when you go to, especially LA County Jail,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, you're affiliated with somebody. And even if when people hit you up and ask you where you're from or who you run with, and you try to use that nobody, they're gonna be like, "No, you lying. Where'd you grow up at, or where you live at, or something like that." Was there any point where you like affiliated yourself with any particular neighborhood or anything like that?
I'd never been jumped on an actual gang or anything like that, but I
Mm,
ran with my neighborhood is filled with a lot of different gangs and sets, you know what I mean? And
right.
so, I was affiliated with the guys I hung out with, and if
Mm,
people would like press me in there, I would try not to overly affiliate myself, but I would definitely let
right.
them know where I was from and who I ran with, you know what I'm saying?
Mm,
But I never been jumped into a gang or anything like that.
right.
I think when I was when I was locked up, anybody was from that West LA area, I just stuck close to those guys, 'cause that's what I felt
Right.
safe with.
Right.
The West LA car, I would just kind of stick
Mm,
close to them. Um,
mm,
uh, and so in jail, uh, fighting for 2 years, trying to stay safe in there, bro. God, for God's grace, I
right.
always had good people around me who taught me things, told me things, were patient with me, and kept me safe in there.
Right.
People looked out for me and made sure I was all right. Uh, I was never really hurt in there, scared a lot in the county jail. But everything was chill and not chill, but it was. The Lord kept me safe. You know what I mean? Kept
Right.
me.
Right. Right. And that's
Um,
interesting. It's interesting that you say that, right? You said by the
mhm,
grace of God, and you said the Lord
yeah.
kept you safe. And you talked earlier about how, as a child, you were given your foundation in your faith and in Christianity.
Mhm.
But now, at this point in your life, were you acknowledging your faith? Would you pray? Were you reading the Bible while you were in jail? Were you having thoughts at all about your Christian background or anything like that?
I was having a lot of thoughts about it. I wasn't only having thoughts about my Christian background. I was having thoughts about my life and my faith in general. And
Mm,
really questioning my concept of God and wondering. Um, I remember while I was in county jail. I did everything from have Bible studies in my room, in my cell, right, for the Christians who were there. I also began to like study Islam to understand what my father
mm,
what his draw to Islam was. I didn't understand
right.
that. We never had any constructive conversations. Um, so I did Ramadan before one time.
Okay.
I was really searching. I was really
Right.
searching at that time.
Right.
To be honest, I didn't. I was in jail for committing a horrible offense that I knew I had done, and I was trying to figure it out, man. Trying to figure it out, um, and that even in that confusion, I never lost sense of that. So the first time I gave my life to Christ, and I was explaining this to my sister and my brother-in-law the other day, that my grandma Willie Harvey took me to Trinity Baptist Church, and I never forget. Pastor Harshaw was preaching the gospel. That was probably about 7, 8 at the oldest,
Mm,
probably about second or third grade. Um, and I remember when Pastor Harshaw shared the gospel, he asked if anyone that wanted to come down and accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I remember like it was yesterday. I remember feeling like something was picking me up and gliding me down to Pastor
mm,
Hartshaw.
right.
Um, and he shared the gospel with me again, as if I understood. I accepted the Lord at that young age. Um, got baptized the following Sunday. Uh,
Mm,
I remember that moment like it was yesterday. That childlike love of Jesus has always been in my heart. I was
right.
not raised in an environment to where that childlike love was cultivated consistently,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Again, I didn't have a father in my life. My mother was going through what she was going through. I was in different
Right.
households, you know what I mean? Um, uh, Loving and wanting to know Jesus is not the same as having the knowledge to serve Jesus. Those
Right.
things
Right.
are not the
Right.
same. Um, so after I left the county jail, I went to New Folsom. Um,
That was so from the county jail. You cut the chain. Where'd you go to reception at?
Reception, right? Kern County, right? Kern County. Um, Man, Kern
What
County.
was it? Was it Wasco or what?
It was Kern County reception. what is it?
Delano?
Delano. There it is, Delano.
Okay, okay, right,
Delano.
right.
Um, Man, I learned so many harsh lessons from that county jail to reception experience. Saw so
Mm,
much violence, people get hurt,
right,
sexual assaults, saw so much. And um, I remember I was still so naive because I was not from the streets. I had learned some things,
right,
but I still wasn't ready prepared for everything I had to learn. Um, Being in the the reception yard, seeing people being sent to the prisons they were going to, and getting their like their little classification points, and it was
right,
way out, man. It was like so happening so fast. It was very disturbing to me. It was scary.
right.
Um,
Did you have anybody? Because you say you weren't really. This is your first time getting busted for anything major. Your first time going to prison, and you weren't really like banging or nothing like that. Was there anybody that was on the bus with you that transferred from the county to prison with you that kind of like laced you up? That kind of like prepared you, like, okay, look, this is what's about to happen. This is what's coming. Get ready for this, or you got to carry yourself like that, anything like that. Any kind of like anybody that kind of took you under their wing and laced you with some game as you went to prison.
I think the first person in that instance who really laced me with things. Um, so when I was in the county, there were people that really were instrumental in helping me through. So I ran into, I'm gonna name some people, just name them off, right? Myford Jenkins, Chaos, Wicked, um, Macadocious from Thug Life. I'm trying to remember who I was in those. It was other guys. I just may not remember. Dennis Takamini. Um, Good people who were like ex-cons, ex-gangsters, rappers,
Right, right, right,
Southsiders, black dudes, white dudes. Like, you know what I mean? Like I had a plethora of people who played intricate parts. You know what I mean? If I'm talking about Chaos, it was just telling me stories about growing up in Compton. He passed away recently. God bless Chaos.
mm,
Not recently, but he's passed on. If it was Wicked, he was a Southerner from Sunland. He write raps with me. Um,
right.
if it was uh, Myford Jenkins from Compton, write raps with me too. Just hang out in the cell and write rhymes with me. Macadocious from the rap group Thug Life. We just sitting and then
Mm.
write raps together. And tell me stories. They would just tell me like all these stories about their life and their experiences, bro, in YA, their YA stories and stuff like that. Oh,
Right.
Relly Rail, who I saw recently. Uh, Relly Rail, he was from Watts. He would tell me stories. Him and his cousin, they would tell me stories and share things with me. Um, I remember one of the funniest things someone told me about jail, about prison was Myford Jenkins out of Compton. He was like, Myford was like, yeah, bro. He was like, you can get to prison. They're gonna have some tater tots for breakfast. They'll be so good you want to make a sandwich with them. I was like, what?
A sandwich with tater tots. What is he talking about?
The triangle ones. He said they're like a
Right, right,
triangle.
right. Yeah,
He'll like do this in the air like a triangle, homie, and they'll be so good you make a sandwich with them. I was
that's
like, what?
crazy.
So little stories like that, man.
Right.
Was good dudes in there going through some hard things, young people, um, just good people, man. But I'm trying to think of my cellie, who was an older guy from Long Beach, who I was in reception with, who had me working out in the cell, had me lose. I gained so much weight because I was on depression medication
Mm,
and I gained a lot of weight. And I got off the depression meds, and he helped me work out in the cell and lose weight and
right.
stuff. And I forget his name, good brother, man, out of Long Beach, older. Long Beach guy. I think he was a Crip, older Crip guy. Um,
And that's what I was going to ask you.
mhm,
When you hit the state, especially when you first get to reception,
mhm.
they ask you. At least when I went, they asked you like, who do you run with? Who do you sell with? Did you at that point have to make a decision like, okay, this is who I'm gonna be linked
Nah,
up with while I'm in prison, or how did
that's
that
one thing
happen?
I was told to be was they told me to keep it real about. If you're not affiliated, say you're not affiliated. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
Don't go in
right,
there claiming no gang or nothing like that because you don't
right.
want to become a full fledged gang member in prison. I remember people telling me
Mm,
that. Like, don't
right,
go there trying to say, oh, you from this, you from West LA and you hang out with these guys. No, don't say none of that. I said, you go in
right.
there and you say, hey, I'm not affiliated. You start being honest about your affiliations, and then
Mm-hmm.
it'll be okay for you. Don't go in there
Right.
trying to say you're this or that.
Right.
So I went as non-affiliate. The first prison I was in was New Folsom. Um, that was
What
wild.
year was that? What year was that?
Like 2000, early 2001, 2002, right in there.
And where was you at? B or C?
I think BR was our reception, and then CR where we got housed, right? Like that. I think that's how it
No.
went.
Well, they had an orientation building
On
on the
B,
yard, right? So I was on B facility. B facility, I was there from 1999 to 2002. And that was like a shoe kick out yard. That was where all
right?
the riders, and that's where it was really popping at. At the time, CR was more
Programming
like a
yard.
programming yard, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
Still a general population level 4 180 where
Hmm.
stuff was still happening, but it was a little more of a programming yard versus B facility where the shoe kickouts were at.
Right, right. No, you're absolutely correct. CR's where I went. Um, it was a bro. New Folsom was wild, bro.
Off the hook.
It was like if
Off
you
the
want to get
hook.
that was my scared straight program right there. I'm gonna keep
Right.
real with you right there. I was getting into things. I was trying to survive. You know, but that
And
was
that's
like
that's a crazy spot for people that don't know. If you're watching this video and you don't know about prison, you haven't been to prison or you've never been affiliated with that kind of lifestyle. New Folsom was probably, this is just my opinion because I've been there. I've been to New Folsom. I've also been to High
right,
Desert, Salinas Valley. I never made it to Pelican Bay. But New Folsom, the reputation for the stuff that went on there and all that kind of stuff is probably like a step down from Pelican Bay. Pelican Bay is what everybody, whether you've been to prison or not, or know anything about prison or not, everybody knows the name Pelican Bay. But at least to me, in my experience, the next one was New Folsom. So to go there as your first prison, having never been to the pen before and coming straight from reception to go to New Folsom, that was probably wild as a mug.
yeah, bro. It was. I'm telling you, it was my scared straight program. Like literally,
Right,
it was
right,
wild. It was like I remember watching American Me before I got locked up, and the brutal nature and the way people dealt with each other when it was,
right.
it was just people getting like stabbed 69 times and get found by the side of the urinal in the yard. You know,
Right.
it was just that was a wild spot, bro. Um, yeah, it was wild. It was interesting time for me based on what the Lord was doing with me personally. But the things I saw other people
Mm,
the things I saw other people suffering around me, bro, was like it was shocking and it was sobering, bro. It was sobering. The
right,
amount of violence,
right.
the death, the riots,
Mm,
the way that the inmates and the correctional staff operated with each other. It
right.
was deep, man. But I had some cool experiences there. My first really cool cellie was a dude named Buckshot, Levi Gwynn. Levi was interesting because he was one of the first people who were, when they changed the laws, he was one of the first juveniles who got life without in California.
Mm,
And so Levi, he shared a lot with me about, and he was also one of the first people I saw going through like a radical transformation and change in prison
mm.
because he was a
How so? What
Christian.
are you talking about? Like spiritually?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm,
because he was a Crip from Riverside, and he had come into prison, became Rastafarian, and dissociated himself from the gang, not going to meetings, not doing any of that, but they wouldn't disclassify him. So I saw him battling in the courts to get the Crip classification off of him. And that
so
was
when you say
interesting.
they wouldn't disclassify, you're talking about the prison administration.
Administration, right.
Mm,
So
okay.
if the Crips went on lockdown, they would lock him down. If the Crips, you know what I mean? It was like, and he
Right.
got the point to where I'm fed up with this. I shouldn't be treated like this. And he fought and fought and fought until I remember the captain of the sergeant, they walked his papers over to his yard, showing he was disclassified. He was no longer classified as a Crip
Mm,
before, and he fought for that. So shout out
right.
to Levi for all the positive influence he was on a young person like myself. Um, I had a show named Shorty from West LA who showed me legal work and seen someone fighting in that regard for their freedom. More positive examples. I dibbled and dabbled in negative things. I learned how to make alcohol while I was
Right.
in New Folsom. That was my main hustle to take care of myself.
Slanging
Um,
that pruno.
Slanging Pruno, selling
Right.
tobacco, selling weed if I can get my hands on some bud. Doing all those were negative things I did trying to survive while I
Right.
was in prison. Um, I also began my first fighting for change in prison was there was a white cellie next door to me. I had a Bible on my shelf that was collecting dust because I wasn't reading it. And the
Mm.
white guy was an older white guy, and called me to the door one day and said, "Hey man, what are you doing?" He was watching how I was living on the yard. And I was just another young kid doing nothing and going heading
Right.
nowhere fast. And he's watching young people die, young
Right.
people becoming homosexual, young people, he's watching things happening in there. And he looked at me and
Mm.
said, "I'm gonna ask this kid what he's doing, see if I can make a connection." He gave me a book called Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
I started reading that book.
It has on the cover. It has a little
Chess
chessboard and
board.
some chess pieces. Yeah. Did
Yeah, bro.
that? Did that? Was that strange to you that somebody from another race? Because we all know that prison is very racial,
Yeah.
especially on them level fours, them 180s. Everything is based off of race. So was it strange to you that somebody from another race would approach you with some positivity?
Yeah, it was because his celly was like a skinhead type dude. He wouldn't even talk to me. Like, he wouldn't even talk to the black people on the tier. You know
Right.
what I mean? So he was different. Um, was a good Christian example. That book helped change my life and how I saw myself, how I saw the people around me. It loosened up that resentment and hate and anger that I had for you know um, people I felt who abused me, left me, abandoned me. I started blaming
Mm.
people. I started to forgive. I started to pray for a better heart. Um, I started to get better and become my natural self. You know what I mean? And
Right.
those were the first keys. Also, with my mental health, they had a mental health nurse that would come around and talk to men who were suffering from depression and stuff like that. And she would come
Mm.
talk to me. She helped me fully get off psych medication. A lot of positive things going on for me up there. I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia for a while. It was really hard for me to sleep. I only get like an hour of
Right.
sleep here and there throughout the night. Um, uh, but I was just trying to find. I was just playing sports really at New Folsom, trying to stay positive. Playing sports, reading my Bible. I couldn't get out of my cell because there wasn't classified. I didn't have the
Right.
classification to get out of my cell. It wasn't until
Mm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger came in the office and put the R on CDCR, then they
Mm.
changed the classification. And it enabled
Mm.
people who weren't classified rightly to get out of their cell for positive activities.
Mm.
Before,
Okay.
even if it was a positive activity, you couldn't get ducketed for it if you did not have the classification to get out of your cell.
Right.
But it took like a year even to get classified to get dropped down and come out of yourself. It wasn't yard time. So
Mm.
fortunately put the R on there that changed things. I was able to
Right.
start going to religious services for this Buddhist couple who would come, and it wasn't Christianity. What they helped me with though was teaching me how to calm my mind so I can learn how to so I can start
Mm.
going to sleep. So they helped me start sleeping without medication,
Right.
um, which was beautiful because later, as you know, God had a plan for that background. That background helped me. That was my first intro, like to cognitive behavioral therapy, like what I
Right.
mean, non-medicated ways to deal with mental illness, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was learning at that point at an early stage, and then getting more into my faith, being able to sleep finally. A correctional officer named Saint Dennis, I believe his name was, at New Folsom, gave me my first job. He helped me get a job in the kitchen, in the
Mm.
satellite kitchen.
Right.
To me, it was a great change for my life because it was a small thing to a lot of people, but to me, it was like I'm getting out of the cell more now. I was
Right.
cooking food. I would have food. The guys in the kitchen taught me a better way to hustle, which was not selling drugs or alcohol. We would make sandwiches and we would speed wrap the
Mm.
sandwiches, and I would have like a bag of 20 sandwiches, and I would
Right.
sell the sandwiches to the guys in the tiers, and I would it was just part of my rehabilitative improvement.
Right.
For me, it was God working with me, helping me. Um, so I remember playing in the another thing started happening. I met guys like Tim Fomby, who out of Long Beach, who helped me get on his football team for the football tournament.
Mm.
The New Folks, and that was a big deal to me as a young kid too, playing with him
Right.
and Reese Cup and who else was on my team? Jack from Compton, our quarterback. I like naming these names, so if anybody sees this, they
Right.
can
Right.
remember
Right.
I have favorable memories of you guys. We may
That's
not know
right.
you very well, but I love you guys for the role you guys all played in my life. Even though it may have seemed small to y'all, it was big to me.
Right.
Um, playing football. Ross G. Marcelli had another Rastafarian Celly. The Rastafarian guys had love for me. I had a lot of cool Rastafarian Cellies.
Mhm.
Ross G taught me a lot about life, shared a lot of experiences with me, man. Talking about his case, I think between him and Shorty and Buckshot and getting the book from the brother, I had like a good foundation to keep seeing like a positive future for myself and not give up on
Right.
myself, you know, and hoping that I was going to get out of jail one day.
So
Um,
while you're there, you're at New Folsom
mm,
and you're experiencing some positive changes, but you're still living the realities of life on a level 4
mhm.
180 yard. You got craziness going on around you. Are you at this time like really into the Christian faith? Are you identifying as a Christian? Have you made like a conscious decision, like, okay, I'm trying to live right, I'm trying to live for the Lord? Or is it just kind of like something that's still in its infancy? It was still developing in you,
It
and you
was
were mostly just trying to survive where you were at?
it was in its regarding maturity. It was in its infancy, but there were two great moments
Mm,
at that regarding my Christian walk. One was when I got the book Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer, which changed how I saw the Bible, changed how I saw being a Christian, changed how I saw myself. But another one was when I think I made my first substantive great change in my walk, and which was seeking out my sobriety.
mm,
That was I was in the cell with Ross G. We were smoking a joint, and it was my birthday or his birthday. It was my birthday, and I think um, I was standing by the door. I was smoking the joint. I passed it back to him, and I felt this cold chill go over my body. Like it was
mm,
ugly. And I just felt in that moment the Lord was telling me that if I continued to put on this facade and wear this mask, he was going to allow me to die in prison.
ooh,
Felt like that's what I was being told by
mm,
that spiritual chill that came over my body. It was a spiritual chill. Um, and I remember I was like, whoa, that was like, it was like but it was about my life crime specific. It was like, you're doing this again. It's like you're taking this man's life over and over and over again every time you act this way,
mm,
every time you act like a thug, every time you get high or you try to act and talk with this street slang, try to be like more bravado than's needed. Like you try to do too much, like you're committing that offense over and over again. And I remember I took the joint, I just dropped it in the toilet and flushed it.
that's deep.
And and that from that moment, I never smoked marijuana again. I never got drunk again. Um, and I remember she was like, "What do you?" He said, he got so mad that I flashed the joint. You know what I mean? He
Right,
was so mad. I'll never forget his face. He's like, "What?" I said, "I'm done." They said, "You done?" I'm not done. You know what I
right.
mean?
Should have
And
passed it over here.
yeah, exactly.
Would you
So
consider that like the defining moment? Like that was when you really made a determination, like, okay, I need to live my life as best I can for the Lord and really get serious about my walk.
it was the deciding factor, but it wasn't. You know, I was still out to work to go. I still had to, Lord had to work with me on, you know.
Right.
He still had to work with me on pornography. There was still
Mm,
more forgiveness. There was still my dirty mouth. There was still other things. I'm just acknowledging that at that moment, the Lord sobered me
okay. Which was step one, because if
from
you don't have
drugs.
a clear mind, you can't
Right,
trip off of nothing else.
right. Regarding drugs and alcohol, that moment
Right.
it was a wrap.
Mm,
So then I began to radically change because I finally got sober. And I remember when I had went to Hollywood Mental Health and I got diagnosed with major depression disorder, that my Dr. Patago, I'll never forget his name, Dr. Patago was like, "Hey, you gotta get off the dope, kid." He
right.
was like, "You gotta
Right.
sober up." You know,
Yeah.
because it's one thing to be a depressive, but it's another thing to have amphetamine induced depression disorder or alcohol
Right.
induced, right?
Right. Right.
Cannabis induced depression disorder. Because you can have this depression, but you can also exasperate it and make it increase by what you're doing to yourself. So don't
Absolutely.
think he's like, don't think all this stuff going on in your mind is because you're that way. No, it's all you're smoking too much, you're drinking too much, you're out on the
Mm,
streets, you're making it worse. So
right.
that always was in my mind too. So from that moment, then um because before that, I kept this crazy notion in my mind. I'm going to escape from prison one day. That was my great hope and faith I had in my mind prior to that. Um,
I think all lifers have that at some point. 'Cause I used to have
yeah.
mine wasn't so much escaping in that sense, like escape
Mhm.
from Alcatraz kind of escaping, but I
Mhm.
always had my thing was my appeal's gonna come through. My appeal's gonna come through, my
Right.
appeal's gonna come
Mhm.
through, and I'm gonna get up out of here. And after
Right.
probably like the first 5, 6 years when it didn't happen, then I finally was just like, okay, I guess not, I'm stuck, I'm doing life.
Right. 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 So Absolutely. But this was, I began to have real faith in going home. I think I knew in my heart I was going home, and the Lord kept it. I knew I was going home in my 30s. I thought I was 35, but I knew I was going to go home in my 30s. And that settled me with a great peace. That revelation God gave me that I'll be home in my 30s.
Mm,
I finally felt guilty about it. It's really
wow.
interesting, bro. I felt guilty about knowing that about myself.
Mm.
I had seen such great
Did
suffering.
knowing that affect how you behaved? Like, a lot of people that got life, me for a good part of the 24 years that I did having life, I just didn't care. So I
Mhm.
was just doing what people in prison with life sentences do. I was participating in all the shenanigans. So with you having that in the back of your mind that I am going to go home, was that kind of like a leash for you to not want to do too much or not get caught up in stuff that could mess that up for you?
I think it must have been. It must have been the way the Holy Spirit kept a harness on me from getting too deep involved in things.
Right.
I did a lot of stupid stuff in prison, bro. A lot of dumb stuff,
Mm,
from
right.
manufacturing alcohol to hand-to-hand drug sales to you
Mm,
know following behind racial politics, like just stupid
right.
stuff that
Right.
could have got me killed in there, and it didn't. So
Mm,
I have to say that the Lord kept a harness on me and a muzzle on me that I didn't go
right.
too far. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
I think I had to have that faith he gave me, that hope he gave me, had to be a part of it. In Jesus' name, I
Mm,
knew it was, and
right.
I thank the Lord
Right.
for that.
Amen.
Um, um,
So you spent some time in New Folsom.
mhm.
Where'd you go after that?
There was a racial incident at Calipat, and um, by God's glory, I got to volunteer to transfer.
From New Folsom to Calipat.
Yes, bro,
They were
and it's
swapping people out.
yeah, but I
Right.
laughed about it because it's like it was a bit, it was a blessing, but it shows my naive nature too. You know, that's
A lot
one
of
of the
people don't know
worst.
that Calipat is popping too.
Yeah, yeah, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the worst times you ever volunteer to go anywhere after something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But for God's glory, He kept me safe in there. I got my first real job while I was in there. I also went to my first chapel service while I was there.
Mm,
I knew folks. I never went to one chapel service.
right.
Um, but I went to my first chapel service at Calipat. I remember I signed up for the Kairos program, but I wasn't there long enough to actually do it.
Mm,
Um, I got my first cool job. My boy Rashid. I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry, bro, if I say your name wrong. I love you, brother. New York. Um, he is the editor in chief. I'm gonna put him out of the San Quentin newspaper now. Okay, so
okay.
if I'm saying my brother's name wrong, he was also featured on CNN's expose about the San Quentin newspaper program. You know, I mean,
Okay.
he literally starred in that expose they did about it. So I hope I'm saying my brother's name. I'm saying New York for right now because everyone knows me as New York anyway. He got my first great job in prison, which was working at the law library as law library clerk. And
That is
what
a
a
good
great,
job. That
that
is
was
a good
beautiful,
job.
bro. Beautiful, especially on lockdown, y'all. We got handcuffed to walk to work every day. So
Right.
I was the guy who sat in the computer area and helped people do their searches for their websites and stuff.
Nice.
Beautiful time for that. Played a lot of basketball. Worked out a lot. Couldn't do too much because of the lockdown situation. We're just coming
Hmm.
out of it. They're just bringing us up step by step. Uh,
Right.
Good chapel over there. I don't remember the name of the chapel. Um, First discernment about false doctrine. I started growing as a Christian, learning certain things. Um, I saw like, oh, I had a cool seller named J.C. Wells, and I had a cool seller named Money Out of Compton. Brothers taught me so much. Money Out of Compton taught me about stepping away from that life in real terms. He was like a really big guy in the Compton Crip community, and he stopped going to. He had made a promise to his family he was going to change, and I watched him systematically change his life, and it was
Mm,
beautiful to watch. J.C. Wells, a well-known street hustler out of the Bay, I think was from Vallejo. Um, Man, incredible life story, lots of trauma, um, trying and fighting and striving to be a family man, a leader in his family. That's what I remember about JC. He taught me about that, more about change too, like, taking this so-called street life, putting in the perspective of what it really is, and championing your family first. I remember that JC taught me that. Um, uh, Who else was I hanging out with out there? I wasn't there too long because my points when we
Okay.
were on lockdown, my points were going down rapidly, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
it's probably only there for like 10 months, bro.
Mm.
2 months. Yeah, my points dropped and they transferred me out of there to Ironwood. So I wasn't there
Ooh,
for very long.
ISP. They kept
ISP,
you in
bro.
that. They kept you in that desert region, though.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
stuff wasn't no joke. I
No
stayed
joke.
down there in that desert region, boy. It was no joke down there. So okay, so you left from Calipat to now Ironwood, which is a
Yeah.
level 3. So
Level
now you're
three.
getting a chance to experience a little more freedoms, a
Yeah.
little more privileges. And what was that like? How are you dealing with that?
Level 3 yards, still super turned up. Ironwood was wild. Um,
Ironwood was wild.
yeah. But it was I found a good Christian community, met some good people there, bro. Ironwood, Joseph Davidson, shout out to my bro, one of my Christian elders out of El Shaddai Church. Met some real good brothers in the faith who taught me so much. Did Kairos there under Ed Cosgrove and um, um, uh, man, saw some incredible things. El Shaddai Church is where we began to grow as a Christian. That's the first
Mhm.
place I actually clapped my hands and sung a church song as an adult.
Okay, right,
All
right,
the tough guy sitting in church, not moving your hands, not clapping, not stomping your
right,
feet,
right, right,
in there
right,
like this, just at church like this, looking around,
right. Oh my
let that
goodness.
let that stuff go there at El Shaddai Church. Beautiful elders, um, good brothers I met there, man. I can't remember everybody's name. In the moment, I'm kind of nervous still, but great men there. My boy Kevin Johnson, who I worked in the kitchen with, he passed away a couple years, like I think it's 2 years now. Kevin been gone. Good guy, man. My boy Kevin. Um,
That was Kev that was in Chuckawalla with us, right?
yep, that
Yeah.
Kevin. Same Kevin, man. Love that guy. Um, had some interesting experiences there. Got my first 115 there. Um, I'm trying to get all that experience. It was a
So you
great.
had been, that was your first 115. How long had you been in prison at that point?
I'd been in prison at that point. I didn't get my first 115, bro, till I was like 10 years in.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, I was rocking, bro. God was taking care of me, bro. But
Right. So for people that don't know what a 115 is,
Mhm.
when you get when you get caught for something, when
Yeah.
you get caught breaking a rule, breaking a law, you get a disciplinary report, which is called, it's a form 150, 115,
Mhm.
115. And that's a disciplinary. So just if you were wondering, like, what's he talking about? He got a 115. That means he
Mhm.
got caught for something and got in some trouble.
Right. Big facts, big facts. Um, Learned a lot at New Folsom, bro. I'm sorry,
Right.
at Ironwood. Greg Smith, one of the older guys from West LA, who I hung out with a lot at New Folsom as well. Almost forgot about Greg, man. Greg taught me a lot and kept me out of a lot of trouble. Really good friend, really older brother, taught me so much, man. Shared so many stories with me about his life, and watched him make great changes in his life. Um, he introduced me to other older guys from our area, um, like Brother Kim, who passed away of cancer while we were at Ironwood. Um,
Mm,
Good guys, man, who let me. It was this is about the older dudes I messed with. My boy Johnny Timmons from the Jungles. Johnny Smith from the Johns. I think say Stone. Say Stone. 'Cause I don't remember his full last name, but you know I'm talking about. Love you, Johnny. Love you, Joe. I love you, man. Those guys, they let me play and act tough until I was ready to be my true self.
mm.
And it's the trip, bro. They
And
never
didn't judge you for it.
didn't judge me for it, bro. Knew I wasn't the toughest guy. Knew I was into that life. And, they let me work out with, the West LA guys. I was come work out with them. They all knew that wasn't me. I wasn't for any of that stuff. And
Right.
that wasn't what I wanted. They knew that about me, but they all let me hang out and be around. And when I wanted to, really give my life to Christ, and really start walking with the Lord, they not it was just a natural progression, bro. It was just, and they
Right.
allowed me to do that, bro. And I really love those guys, Moon and all those guys that I met along my path, man. Appreciate them so much for helping me out. I remember Stone was one of the ones who we played an intricate part. I remember one day. So I got my first 115. I'm gonna jump forward and jump back, right? So I got my first 115, first infraction. 'Cause there was a disturbance in my building. The Hispanic guys were getting crazy with the guy in the tower. It was too wild. The guy said, "Get down." I didn't get down because it was just too much going on. And
Right.
then I got down. I tried to fight my 115. You know, when one race is getting crazy like that with the staff, all the races kind of trying to show solidarity and
Right.
stay, But I'm on my Jesus tip at this point. You know, what I
Right.
mean, I don't know what to do, so I stayed on my feet too. And
Right.
that was interesting because Stone taught me something about that one day, and then I got my 115, did my 115 time, lost all my property, I got my property back 6 months later.
Mm,
I'm back at work, right? First day back at work. The first day back at work, something crazy happens. We're going to work in the kitchen.
mm.
The tower officer does not feel like letting us in. It's the middle of the summer, bro. He's we're trying.
And we're hot in the mud.
We all got our. You have to wait. It don't matter how hot it is. You got to wear all your clothes to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, we're trying to stand in the shade, right?
Which is out of bounds.
Which is out of bounds. He's telling us to get back on the track, stand in the sun,
Right.
bro. All of the kitchen workers, watch this. They go stand in the shade anyway while he's on the tower speaker telling them to move.
And when you say all the kitchen workers, you mean all races?
All
Everybody don't
races,
matter?
bro. Southerners, black, Asian, Paisa, whatever. They all in solidarity move over there. Bro,
Right.
I'm still standing on the track in the sun, right? Because I don't know what to do. I'm looking like this is crazy, man.
Not trying to get in
Just
no trouble.
I'm trying to get the level 2 yard.
Right.
I'm like before I was like 8 points away. I got my 115, like 16 points away. I don't want to get in no more trouble. I want out of here. You feel
Right.
me? So, bro, I'm looking like, what do I do? So again, the peer pressure of that yard, and
Mm,
I don't want, there's always that pressure. If you do the wrong thing, you might get boo-bopped. That's
right.
always, that's how it goes, bro.
Right.
And so I never forget this, bro. This is the Holy Spirit working through Stone. And Stone was a Christian, right? He had some rough edges and was still doing his thing. I love Stone, man. That's my guy. But uh he was a brother in Christ though, for real. And then I remember I picked up my bag and I went to go walk over to everybody else. Stone seen me. He came out of the crowd, walked up to me, he looked at me, he said, "Hey." And he said, "Hey, little N, right? If you're not willing to die or kill about this, stay where you're at."
Mm,
That was a deep moment,
that's
bro.
heavy. I was just gonna
That
say
was
that's
a
heavy.
deep moment, bro. I never forget that. And then Stone went back. He went back over there with all the guys under the thing, right?
Right.
And to me, seeing things from that spiritual eye, getting. And when we start walking with Christ, we start seeing things different and hearing things different.
Right. Right.
I felt like he was ministering over my life at that point, giving me
Mm,
permission to make the decision as a man that I wanted to make for myself.
right.
And so
Right.
I stayed in the sun while they were in the shade. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Going against what the officers told me to do. And
Right.
for and from that day on, I stayed in the sun. Literally. I stayed
Come
in
on.
the sun literally from that day on. Um and I did it in faith and I did it courageously from that day on.
Right.
There was no
Because you were
creeping
taking
up.
a chance because you were going against
Right.
when convicts is doing something together,
Hmm.
especially when all races are doing it,
Right.
and you're doing the opposite, you were putting yourself at your personal safety at risk.
Right, bro. Right. Right. Facts. That was a deep moment, bro. But it changed my life in prison because it showed me the liberty we have in Christ Jesus and the way we stand as courageous, brave men. It's a
Right.
difference
Right.
because
Absolutely.
it's a different. We're doing different work now. We're sharing the gospel. We're saving the souls. You know what I mean. We're living a different way. We have a different calling and different purpose here on the world. You know what I mean.
Right.
So we have a different kind of liberty, and that kind of show me liberty we have as Christian people spiritually.
Mm,
You know what I mean.
right.
So I'll
Right.
never forget that day. It helped me out a lot, and I got to make so many great changes there. I became Toomey. I joined Toomey there, the Urban Ministry Institute.
Mm,
Began to learn about Christian ministry. That for those who don't know, the Urban Ministry Institute at Toomey is a 4-year Christian seminary they offer in California prisons. Um, And I began it there. And I also took the Kairos program. For you that don't know about Kairos, Kairos is a weekend long Christian seminar where
Mm,
you come learn about the gospel, its inclinations, understanding about the Holy Spirit. There's a whole forgiveness section where it really tries to take the heart of a convicted criminal and get them to forgive. If there's anywhere in your heart that you are struggling with forgiving people who've done you wrong, you have a moment to come to Jesus, and the weekend culminates in that coming in Jesus moment. That's the Kairos
that's dope.
program. Yeah, it was really dope. So more monumental things changed in my life. I was also, and so now I need to jump back to Mayor Richard Riordan, right? Because
Mm,
okay, Jesus is an advocate. He raised advocates for his children.
right.
Mr. Riordan popped back up, bro. I want to say this too. Mayor Richard Riordan, he literally visited me at every prison I was in throughout my term. I want to acknowledge that.
Mm, that's crazy.
Yeah, bro. He would come out of the blue, unscheduled. I would get a ducket in the middle of the day sometimes when there is no visiting, get walk
Right.
to the visiting room and hang out with the mayor and play chess in the visiting room.
Was it like considered a legal visit or something? That's
No,
crazy.
it was
That's
just big.
crazy. I never
It
heard
was
nothing like that.
yeah, it was just, him being a boss. You know what I
That
mean?
that that in itself could have got you boo-bot. If not
No,
for the Lord's
true.
hand being on you, because
Right,
you know how
right.
people in prison are right away.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
people's minds start tripping, and he's
Fact.
out there with the mayor. Oh, what's he telling them? And what is he an undercover agent or what the
Right,
heck's
right, right,
going
right.
on? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Mayor was no joke, bro. He moved like a boss, and he took good care of me, man. And he was very kind to me, very gracious to me. And he always was checking to make sure I was doing the right thing. And even when I wasn't doing the right thing, he was still coming to see me.
Mm,
And he was really happy to see me actually doing the right thing and knowing I was doing the
right,
right thing, and it wasn't just lip
right,
service.
right.
Um, he told me what I want to do. I said I want to go to parallel. I was really into law work at the time. I was doing lots of
Mm,
legal work. It was my hustle in prison too. I want to acknowledge that. But that would change. It would change when Mayor Reardon paid for me to go to the Blackstone Career Institute and become a certified paralegal while I was in prison.
oh, dang.
And that was another
This
major.
was still at Ironwood. You were still on
Yeah,
level three at
still in
this time.
Ironwood. Yep.
Okay.
And so I was doing correspondence courses. They would send me a stack of books to read and do my tests and my testing, get my tests graded. It was beautiful, man. I learned so much about the law, and also helped me in my Christian faith too. Because part of being a Christian, there's an element where we're called to be good citizens where we live,
Yes. Yes.
for the benefit of the kingdom of God, right?
Right.
And I really got to learn about what it meant to be a good citizen, literally, in the context of like American history when I was going to Blackstone Career Institute. And
Mm,
one thing I learned about, and I always got to be confronted with the error of my ways, being a thief and a robber in the streets, was one part of being a good citizen is to protect the liberty of your neighbors. And that's deep.
right.
'Cause I don't remember
Right.
ever learning that in school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lesson about citizenship and protecting the liberty of your neighbors. Like my
Right.
neighbor, my neighbor's life and my neighbor's goods and his family are my responsibility,
Right.
especially when he is away. And that's a trip, bro. That's a lesson I
Right.
learned in American history, and I was like, wow, that's deep. And it helped me change, become a better person too.
Right.
And so,
And it's totally opposite from what most people believe nowadays.
right,
Nowadays, it's like that's none of my business. People
hmm
will sit there and watch their neighbor's house get robbed, and at best they'll pull a phone out and record it or something. But
right,
people really don't trip to have other people's best interests. It's all about themselves and theirs only. So that's crazy that you talk about that.
right, right. No, it's beautiful, bro. And then uh, I got my certificate, but I stopped charging people for legal work at that point
Mm,
because I realized the importance of the law. I knew the history of the law, um, and there's this point in legal history where we learn that the first lawyers and representatives were not people who were trained in law. They were people
mm,
like men, adult men of the community who
right.
could speak well and had
Hmm.
good reasoning and sense. Um,
Right.
they were the ones who would present issues to what would we know as judges back then, right? And that kind of like impressed, that kind of like intrigued me, and I wanted to be an upright man in that way. You know what I mean? I wanted to be an upright. I wanted to be upright, and I wanted to be seen as someone who had good senses. And
Mm,
doing illegal things to me goes against having good senses. And
right.
it's illegal to charge people for law work in prison. So I stopped charging people to do their legal work. And it
Mm,
also led to me being the most successful I ever was as a layman litigator. Um, so when the three strikes law changed, that I'd already got my certificate. I had stopped charging people for law, so I was better and I was doing things with better intentions. So when the
mm.
three strikes law changed, I was able to assist several men regain their liberty after from doing life sentences as three strikers.
Woo.
Was able to design through the Holy Spirit in Jesus' name, though. I was able to design a legal form. I used the habeas corpus form that we all used as my template, and I added case law, which was relevant to resentencing and change in prison. I used relevant resentencing case law that was also relevant and pertinent to the three strikes law itself, and designed a petitionship form that allowed men who were incarcerated on three strikes law for an offense which qualified for potential resentencing to obtain their liberty without even going back to the courtroom, which was
Oh,
awesome.
dang.
So
That's
about
crazy.
yeah, so about three people I was able to help in that way to get back
Do
home.
you are you in contact with any of those three people?
No, I'm not. I'm not in contact with
No.
any of three people. Some good
Mm,
guys. One of my favorite brothers I was able to help was my man, my boy, um, Alan Himes. They call him Killer from Pomona. I was able to help him
mm,
get home, and he was a good guy, man. Alan Himes. He worked with me. He's another guy who taught me a whole lot while I was in there, showing me life stories with me. Teaching me things about his experiences as a young man growing up in Pomona, the mistakes he made, and also about family. He loved his family so much, his children, his wife, and made me want to be a family man as well. Just listen to his
mm.
stories. He also made
Wow.
my grandmother Anna, who passed away of cancer while I was locked up. He made her so many nice cards and things.
Mm,
That was his thing. He used to make cards and stuff, and I wasn't charging for legal work anymore, but he used to always give me cards and stuff to send my family while I was working on his legal work.
so
Um,
that's nice. So
and
now, so you're in a level three.
uh,
You've been making major changes in your life. God has been working in
mm,
you.
amen.
You're like full-fledged living as a Christian.
Mm,
You've taken chances,
mm,
which God has rewarded. You got the mayor coming and pulling you out, put you through paralegal school.
mm.
How much longer do you stay at level three before you end up dropping to a level two? And what was that like?
This is another wild part of my story. So I want to tell this story. I also want to track how the Lord is changing me. So remember, I
Mm,
told you it
right.
was the Joyce Meyer book. It was
Mm,
the sobriety from drugs, from alcohol and marijuana, and then the porn. The Lord dealt with me about my porn he freed me from that at Ironwood. So I was freed
right.
up from the porn. I was really into that. I was really into that was a thing. I had my walls laced with the bikini pictures and all that. It
Right.
was crazy. But the Lord convicted my heart, and I got out of the porn cycle and addiction there.
Mm,
So I want to acknowledge that work too. That the
right.
Lord can He really can form my character, helping me and making me better.
Right. Right.
Um, so I'm about to drop point to get to that 2 yard, and then this it was a wild gang riot kicked off, and the whole yard went up one day sporadically. Man, it went wild down the street.
This is Ironwood, and this is what B yard,
Ironwood. No,
D
this
yard.
is D yard. D yard.
Oh, gee, that's right. That's right. That's right.
D yard. Wild riot, bro. Crazy
Right.
riot. I've been locked up all these times and never been in a riot myself.
Mm,
Was absolutely nuts. It went off and went up extremely. Um, One of the most fearful things that I ever encountered there. Um, uh, in the middle of that, I remember being in the kitchen, about to start our work. We're all playing dominoes. It goes up on the yard. Then people seeing going off in the yard. People start grouping up in the kitchen. That
right.
nasty, ugly, tense. It's like being in the movie Gladiator. Um,
Right.
in that quiet.
And
Mhm.
I'm gonna make the assumption that this was Mexicans and blacks.
Yeah, Mexican blacks and whites.
Right. Oh, okay.
And so I'll never forget that quiet before the storm. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It's a literal thing, quiet before the storm.
right.
And my goodness, when it kicked off, it went off, bro. It was like being in the movie. It was unreal. Um,
Mm,
I'll never forget my grandfather's advice telling me, when things get crazy, don't try to be a hero. Stay out the way. Don't get yourself hurt.
Right.
Come home, grandson. Like, make it home to us. Don't be in there tripping. So I broke up a
Mm,
fight in the kitchen one time. I told him about it, and he said, "Grandson, don't do that again. Don't be jumping in between no two grown men trying to fight. Get yourself
right.
killed that way. You get yourself killed that
Right.
way." And so I remember the riot happening, and the cook. We had a cook named Brian who was getting attacked by two people, and I was trying to stay out the way, but someone compelled me. Even as Christians, we never want to be violent, but we may
Right.
be compelled to help someone if they feel. You know
Right.
what I'm trying to say?
When
And
you said the cook, do you mean another
inmate.
convict, or are you talking about? Oh, okay, I didn't know if you meant the free staff cook or
No,
not.
Brian was the lead cook in the back, and I remember he had
Mm,
one guy on his ankles and one guy attacking him on their feet at the same time. And I remember, I didn't know what I was going to do, even if I made it over there, but I started moving over to that direction because I was safe where I was at.
right.
I was cool where I was at, but I started moving over there. I mean, I moved over there. That they saw me coming in that direction. They like broke off of him. But then I started going back the other way. But then it was three guys coming towards me. That was just one of the scariest moments. Had those three guys coming up towards me,
Mm,
and I remember backing up. The guy got too close, and I remember I swung and I hit him, and I tried backing up again. I'm trying to get back to my little safe area, but I
right.
ruined my safe area by letting myself get exposed in the situation. It wasn't no more safe area.
Right.
And I remember a Catholic brother who seen me getting like rushed by three guys. Um, he like threw a cup at the guys, and it kind of distracted them, and
Mm,
um, then they got off of me, and then I remember like then everybody started trying to separate from each other. I'm trying to remember that it was like a chaotic
mm,
moment, and ran in the back. Um, uh, the Hispanic and white inmates laid down in the front. Then it was guards everywhere. I don't know where they came from. How they got in there, bro? It was so many COs up in there. It was just as many of them as us.
dang.
Um, and then they separated us, put us in the back. Um, um, and yeah, it was such a scary time, bro. Such a scary time. And then I remember being on the back porch with with the guys, and then one of them had I had a cut on my finger from when I punched the guy. My
Mm,
my skin was hanging open, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get written up.
right.
I was
Ain't no way
getting
you could say you weren't involved.
yeah, if your skin busted open.
Right.
Uh, and then I was just man, he had some pastels. I remember I was scraping the brown off and trying to like paste it in there so he couldn't see what
Mm,
it hurt. And then one of my brothers, I think it was Dion that said it to me. Dion Sugitan, another good brother in the faith I met, who just came home. God bless him. He's really good friends with my brother-in-law. Uh, he said, "Don't trip, bro. The Lord got you. He got you." I said, "Oh, okay." I just left it alone.
right.
And I remember when they handcuffed us and walked us back to our cell block. They already had guys walking in droves to the hole. They were putting guys in the hole,
Mm,
but
right.
we were one of the last places that they broke down. And I was also a graduate while at Ironwood of the inmate peer education program, which is
Mm,
IPEP, which is a
iPad.
program.
Yeah.
IPEP, yeah, where we were educated on infectious disease in the immune system. We
Mm,
got certified to educate others, inmates,
right.
about infectious disease in the immune system. And the nurse, who was one of the ladies who certified us, along with the chief medical examiner of that area, they all signed our certificates for that program. Um, uh, she checked me going in, and she waved me by.
Mm,
I
right.
remember she had my hands in her hands like this. She looked at my hands, and she tapped me on my shoulder to let him in. And so I was like, that was another God. Again, Jesus being an advocate
Right.
and him moving on the hearts of his officials and his administration to
Right.
show love. And one of the most shocking things about that riot was when I was in my cell. I was in there for a long time. They slammed us for a minute, and I remember my shirt from the riot. I threw it in the back of the cell. I never looked at it, and I picked it up one day. There was from the under here all the way to the front was slashed open.
Oh,
So
dang.
at some point, somebody had got so close to me, they were able to slash at me with something sharp enough
Right.
to cut my clothes
Cut your
open.
shirt.
Yeah, I didn't even feel it. So it must have been something very,
Woo.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So again, God had his hand on me. My good friend Tyrone Luciano took care of me. He used to bring me food while I was locked up in that cell. I had a good brother in Christ named Tyrone, um, who had joined Toomey with me as well. Uh, who's in Soledad right now, fighting to get home still through the
Mm.
board. And he's bringing me food every day, bro. He kept me alive in there. My boy Tyrone, that was my guy. Good brother right there. We're still really good friends to this day. Um, and but for God's glory, bro, I didn't get written up. My points went down. I got transferred out of there. You know what I mean?
Woo. Come
Uh,
on.
and went right across the street to Chuckawalla, still in the valley, but on the 2 yard, bro.
Right. Right. Stay stuck in that desert still for some more years, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now coming from having been on a level 4 180 and then making your way down to Calipat to a 270 design, and then from there going to the level 3, that's cell living. The whole time that's been cell living. So you're used to being in a cell, just having you and your cellmate.
Hmm.
You guys having your little bit of small space, your toilet, your bunk, everything right there in the cell. Now you go to level 2, you come to Chuckawalla, which is dorms. Tell me what that was like walking into a dorm for the first time, where it's just wide open, 200 inmates just loose in the building, constant movement, noise. Tell me what that adjustment was like.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell you from my perspective, not just the cliche perspective of that, right? So I'm gonna go back to my childhood. Remember, I told you my grandparents were working at a Christian summer camp, and I used to go stay up there with them when things got hard
Mm,
on my mom and I.
right.
Bro, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of being at summer
Mm,
camp. I was so happy to be there. I mean, I
right.
can't tell you, bro. It was like second to going home. I was so happy to be in that
Right.
open environment.
Right.
I had to buy they gave me, I had a bunk. Uh, I remember, bro, I fell asleep in the grass. Uh, that wasn't, it was still a real prison. The guys didn't like that. But I
Right.
remember I just
Right.
felt so happy to be there. And I was so traumatized by the riot and stuff, bro. I was really messed up behind all that. And being in that open dorm, it was like so airy. You could feel the breeze going through all the time. And you could always
Right.
see, there was always people to talk to. I wasn't locked up anymore. And one of the things I struggled from in those cells was panic attacks. At least
Mm,
twice a year, I would have a bad panic attack in those cells, bro. And I hated that. It was so scary when that would happen. It was like a little thought would come, and it was always the same thought. I would have a thought that I was going to get that I would get hurt, and no one could hear me or come to help me. And that thought would
right.
get bigger and bigger and bigger to where I'd be breathing funny, my heart beating crazy, feeling like I was going to pass out. I'd have to go to the edge of the cell and like feel that cold air blowing in a little bit, and to calm myself down and to pray. I had to pray so hard, and so
Mm,
to be out of that anxiety and fear. Um, was good. The environment was different. I remember my first day there, I just walked the track. I stayed out all day. I could stay out all day. Why not stay out all day? I stayed out all day, walking around, playing basketball. I ventured into the chapel when I could just walk into the chapel. Never, you can never do that. Chapel was under
right.
lock and key. You had to be
Right.
special to be in the chapel. If it wasn't church, you had to be like have clout on the yard, almost be like
Mm-hmm.
John Gotti or somebody to get into the chapel. You know what I mean? If it wasn't
Right.
chapel time. Um, so I remember walking to the chapel, um, opening the door, going in the office, seeing this olive-skinned Hispanic guy, about maybe in his late 40s, black hair, skinny, sitting behind the desk, named Danny, and I could almost start crying here, but I'm not.
Right.
But Danny became like a lifeline for me, bro.
Shout out to brother Danny, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
my guy
Shucks.
right there. Pillar of Fire Ministries, Danny. We love you,
Pillar of
bro.
fire, bro. Pillar of fire. Here we go.
That's right. That's
Pillar of
right. That's
fire,
right.
bro.
That's right.
Shout
That
out
was
to
the
my
that was the name of our church right there in Chuckawalla.
yes.
Chuckawalla level 2 is where Hamid and I met
Yeah.
and became friends at, and that was the name of the ministry that we had there on the yard, Pillar of Fire.
Yes, and it's also the name of my church still, my home church, where I am a pastor out of, where
Right.
I was lifted up, ordained as a pastor under Pastor Danny Gonzalez and Pastor Martin Dawson. First Lady Pam Gonzalez shouts out to my sister Brianna from Fire Ministry, and my entire Pillar family. I love you guys so much, and my
That's
good
right.
brother Gregory, Deacon Gregory, who I serve with. I'm going to be seeing all my family in a couple weeks out there, and see the church fam. And Danny was uh, instrumental, bro, in helping me heal after the riot.
Wow.
I used to go sleep in Danny's office. I used to go in there and just get in the chair in the corner and just sleep there all day. I used to sleep in that office
Mm,
for hours, bro. And sleep in that office, sit in the sanctuary and play the keyboard, learn how to make beats. I got back into hip hop there, and
mm,
began doing like gospel hip hop shows on the yard in the chapel
right.
with Pastor Martin and his
Hmm.
good friend, his good brother in Christ, Corsi, who became my brother in Christ.
Right.
They had a rap group called I almost forgot the name of the rap group, bro. What's the name of the rap
Come
group?
on, man. Come
Come
on. It
on,
wasn't
bro.
Lifeline, was it?
Lifeline. There we
Come on,
go.
man.
Lifeline. Lifeline. I almost
That's
forgot. It's
right.
crazy how I forgot Lifeline, the name. But they let me be down on Lifeline and do songs. I was making beats for some of the music. That was crazy. The Lord taught me how to make beats, and that was beautiful, man. We had some good songs, good memories with that. Um, Pastor Danny and Pastor Martin made me a minister in Pillar of Fire.
Hmm.
Um, I used to run the Wednesday night movie night was my first big assignment.
Right.
Share the gospel, put the movie on, clean up the chapel before and after. That was my first big responsibility. Walk in the yard with the frontline evangelism team with Renato and my elder brother Guillen. Jim
Right.
would be out there with us sometimes, and all the brothers who would be out there walking the yard, sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. Martin, Martin, brother Guillen. I don't care if it was snowing; they'd be out there. Them two would be out there, rain, sleet, or
Right.
snow. Brother Santos.
Big mustache Shanto. Shout
Big
out to
Monte
the
with the
mustache,
brush
man.
up, with the brush up. You know what I mean? Santos kicked off the brush up controversy. I remember that was the issue. That was the brush up. But to me, the brush up was good for preaching, good for ministry. I miss all my good brothers. Shout out to the whole team. Yeah, man, we're out there saving souls, bro. Like literally, like out in the
Right.
yard, preaching the gospel, men giving their life to Christ. Doing awesome outreach there. Learned so much about outreach and frontline evangelism. Beautiful time. Pillar of
That's
Fire,
right.
our
So,
bishop,
so, so
Chaplain
let's
Carter.
let's let's jump a little bit
Hmm.
because I want to get. We're talking about the church that got started when people got
Yeah,
out and stuff. Tell us a little bit about what was going on with you legally, because clearly everybody
yeah,
sees that you're out here in the world now. You're sitting here, you out
yeah.
here enjoying freedom. You in society. How
Okay,
did that all go down while you was there at the level 2?
so let me jump into that. Mayor Reardon, God bless him. Um, man, God bless him in heaven. He passed away about a year and a half ago. Um, he jumps in. He hit me up one day. Hey, you're finally walking the walk that you've been talking. Uh, he said if you're up for it, we can try to petition the governor's office for commutation of sentence. That's
Which
Mr.
means
Flip.
what? For someone who doesn't know what a commutation is, what does that mean exactly?
A commutation of sentence is when the governor exercises his discretional power to reduce or vacate a sentence, a
Hmm.
prison sentence.
Okay. Right.
Um, and he does it in good faith based on it could be legalities in your case. It could be new evidence. It can be, you know, extraordinary life change and character change and rehabilitation effort.
And how
Um,
often does something like that happen compared to the amount of people that are in prison and the amount of people that file for something like that? How many people actually get a commutation? What do
it's
you think the
very rare.
percentage is like?
The
That's right.
percentage
That's
it's not a big percentage, not a big
right.
percentage at all. Um, under Arnold Schwarzenegger, we began the process right before I left Ironwood. We started right before I got to Ironwood. I believe I got denied because he came out of office
Hmm.
and he said, we didn't have enough time to review you and what you're doing. Uh, but please try to open up your your file under the next governor.
Hmm.
Governor Jerry Brown comes in. This is his second stint. He was there in the '80s. He's back now, governor again, looking to reform California prisons. The overcrowding got so great. Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is for some history for those who don't know. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger who kicked off the thought that lifers could again start being paroled. Under
Mm,
Governor Davis, no lifer had been paroled
right,
since the early '80s. So you're talking about a
right.
20 something year drought of lifers going home.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Arnold Schwarzenegger began to slowly, not just for lifers, but in California's prisons, began to loosen the reins and loosen the nozzle on second chances, sentencing relief, getting opportunity to regain freedom. And he began different programs and stuff like that, and started working through it. Governor
Mm,
Davis, Governor Jerry Brown continued in that theme, and continued to loosen things up and reduce prison populations and even close some prisons, which we still see going on now under Mr. Newsom. And
right.
so we began petitioning. Governor Brown said, "Sure, I'll open it back up. Let me know what you're doing." So what I began to do was every 6 months, every quarter, every 3 months at first, and later every 6 months, I would begin to send packets to Sacramento, letting them know all the classes I'm passing, letting them know about my faith, how it's growing, my work in the ministry, and what I'm doing. And I just began to just get it up there, and I even did a petition on the yard, a signature where I walked the yard, sharing my testimony, sharing the gospel with men, and asking if they wouldn't mind signing my petition. So I had hundreds of signatures also by men and staff who had saw my rehabilitative efforts and my life change, and they signed on too as well. And I sent that to the governor. Um, Whatever I thought would express how I felt about my case, what I had done, who I had become, my addiction, my depravity, my sin, my new walk with the Lord. I would just send it to the governor. Whatever the Lord put on my heart to send up there, I would send it. So after serving in the pillar of fire, after um, being in that blessed environment, meeting so many great people, having great people rub off on me, meeting my brother Jim McGrath, who Jim has always been a great assist to me since I've known him. We acted and we did Christian outreach together, from evangelizing on the yard, Christian outreach, doing plays for Christmas in the chapel, to working on the Pillar of Fire newsletter for our church together, and having him redline all of mine great poetry I thought I was doing for the for the newsletter. Jim was the editor, and he would just redline my poetry, and I thought he just didn't get it. He doesn't understand poetry. He's not into that.
Come on,
So,
man.
so
I just
uh,
like using that pen.
yeah, yeah. And then so after that, I was had an opportunity. We had to leave that yard because it was changing, and I ended up going to CMC. Uh,
Well, now what year was this?
CMC, I think that was. I think we left. I think I left. I'm gonna say 2015, 2016, right in there.
'Cause that's when they was flipping the yard, right? Because I
Yep.
paroled in 2015,
Yeah,
and it
they're
was
flipping
not
the
too long. It
yard.
was not too long after that they started flipping the yard.
Yeah. So before they started bringing the SNY inmates there, who are the protective need inmates who have sensitive cases, they sent us to other prisons. I volunteered to go to
Right.
CMC, a place that I'd always heard was great. It was even freer than Chuckawalla. It was like more dorm living, but smaller dorms. Man, great experiences up there, man. Met some great people. Alex Palacios, serving the church there was great. Great elders, great teachers. Brother Martin Dawson, Pillar of Fire, would join me there later. We'd get to
Mm,
serve ministry again under his leadership. Uh, great brothers. My brother, brother Robert, who known as Belize. All my great guys, man. And brother Will playing basketball in the yard there. Just
right.
more great people, man. More great people. And just being protected and the Lord watching over me there. It was interesting. I want to keep telling the story about the commutation of sentence.
Right.
My brother Alex Palacios, who was the ministry music leader in the ministry at CMC, he pulls me in to get a job as a inmate assignment clerk. We made all the
Mm,
assignment badges for two prisons, and we
right.
did all the movement. We tracked all the movement of the inmates for two different prisons. Lots of work, lots of data entry work, but it gave me a good footing on my computer. And also, some of the administrative stuff helped me for the foundation for what we do now. The environment we
Right.
work in now. I got a good foundation of that. We'll talk about that as we get to end this testimony too. Uh, Shouts out to the Catalyst Foundation, you know what I mean, all the family there. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we're still on the prison part and how the Lord is refining me and helping me and assisting me. And um, I began working there, and one day I get a ducat in the mail for an attorney visit. Now, when you're under review with the governor's office, they don't give you a lot of information coming back,
Mm,
right? So they're operating, they're watching, but they're not, they want their process is not going to be hindered. So they're not going to let,
right,
a lot of influence come in there. They're going to let you do you and watch.
right.
Um,
So you're this whole time you're kind of just in suspense. You're not
mhm.
getting no communication from them. You don't know what's going on, where your stuff is at. You're just waiting to hear something.
The biggest thing they told me one time is that we're not doing any more commutations on this term. That's what they said about
Mm,
Governor Jerry Brown. And
right.
then I was just so shocked and so scared, but I said, forget it. I kept sending stuff up there. I never stopped doing what I was doing. And one day about a year later, I get this ducat for a lawyer visit, and a phone call came after that, which is it was
Mm,
the governor's office called, and their chief investigator had begun a deeper investigation into me.
mm,
He's calling every prison, talking to who I worked for, talking to my housing officers. They're doing all
mm,
that. I had only been at this prison for about 3 months, and I've been on this job for about 2 weeks when they called.
mm.
And my supervisor didn't want to talk because she felt she didn't know me too much.
Right, right.
But a woman named Beverly Hanson, I gotta say her name, she was a supervisor in our same department, but not for me. She just worked, of course, as a free staff, she had a supervisory role over me. But as far as being
Right,
my direct supervisor, she was not my direct supervisor. But
right.
she said, no, you patch that call to me. I'm not gonna let him miss this
Mm,
opportunity. I'll talk to him.
right.
So a
Hold on, let
lady
me stop
who,
you for just a quick second. So that anybody that's listening, anybody that's
Mhm,
watching that doesn't know what a free staff is,
mhm,
a free staff is somebody that's employed by the prison, but they're not a correctional officer.
right.
They have different areas where free staff work,
Mhm,
library, the kitchen, the medical. There's all kinds of different places, the administration buildings. Just for somebody that doesn't know, so when they hear you say a free staff, they're like, "What does that mean?" It's somebody that's not an inmate, but they're not a guard either, but they're employed by the prison. Go ahead.
right. And so she had a 2 hour interview over the phone about me, someone she only knew for 2 weeks.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because she didn't want to allow me to miss the opportunity. So she just
right,
sat there, answered the questions as best she could.
right, right,
She got
right.
my file. She answered right out of my file. You know what I mean?
Mm,
She
right.
didn't know me at all, right? Beautiful, beautiful person, a Catholic sister. She was a sister in Christ, a Catholic sister, um, uh, who just went on the limb. Went on a limb for me and had an interview. And so that ducat came about a week later. They came about four deep. The chief investigator from the governor's office and his peer and two assistants, they came and formed a panel in that room and just grilled me about my whole case, about my life, my childhood, my time in
Mm,
prison. Just grilled me about everything, bro. Just dug into my chest. And
dang.
after that, he said, you can mail me anything you want up to 2 weeks until I conclude my report on you and send it to to Sacramento governor's office.
Mm,
And uh, and this is very interesting, bro. When you said that your appeal was your hope, that's something we all carry with us. And
right.
so I had all my legal work with me for years. I always kept tagging along with
Mm,
me. And I remember when I had all my appeals, habeas corpuses never worked. Um, my paralegal skills served other people better than they served me, I've always
right,
thought. There
right.
was little information and things he wanted to know that I had to answer out of my case evidence, you know what I mean, about things I had
Mm,
done. He said, did you do this, you do that, do that? And I wanted to be as honest as possible about what I had done. And so I had to go in there and use those skills to prepare a brief so we could plainly
mm,
read and see, you know what I mean, what I had done, how I had lived, um, and take full responsibility of my behavior.
right.
And I briefed all that and sent that to him. And I remember
Mm,
I was like, wow, Lord, that's what all that was for. You did have a blessing for me with all this know-how, but it was
right,
not in the way I thought it would be. And I
right.
sent that. So about 3 months later, I get a call to the office. The yard captain called me in, Sacramento on the phone, sentence commuted. Um, for God's glory, they did not vacate my sentence. They reduced it by 7.5 years.
Right.
So I went to the board 7.5 years early. Um,
Mm. So you didn't get the commutation, but you got an adjustment of your sentence.
no, I did get a commutation.
Oh, okay, okay. But
Right.
they didn't vacate it. They
They didn't
commuted you to a
vacate.
lesser crime, or how did that work?
No, not industrial crime. They just knocked 7.5 years off so I could go to board that year.
Okay. Right.
Because literally my first board hearing would have been next year.
The following year.
You know,
Oh, you mean it would have been next year? It
literally,
would have been 2025.
yeah, that would have been
Would have
my
been your
first
first
board
board
hearing.
hearing.
Absolutely.
Woo, come on.
Absolutely. So
Man.
yeah, God is good, bro. And so they set me a date for my board. They transferred me again to the 3 yard across the street for 'cause my points got so low. Either they're
Mm,
going to I forget what my options were, but they're like they sent me to the L-top program on the 3 yard across the street, which you
mm,
can request to go to a higher level for the long-term offenders program, where
right.
you learn more about victims impact. You learn more about
Mm,
there's a whole uh, um, a curriculum they have. And I took the
right.
Victim Impact class there. Met some other really good brothers in the faith. Um, Met my boy Jasper. We both know Jasper. My boy Jasper there. I met my boy served in a great ministry there too. God made a way for me there. It was a really great time. At that place, I was a captain I was a captain's clerk on that yard,
Mm,
which was beautiful because got to meet a lot of great people, learn more administrative things. When you look back, you can see what the Lord's preparing you for what you're doing now. You know what I
right.
mean? By looking
Right.
backward, learn more administrative, great things there. Um, uh, I got my TUMI certificate there. I
Mm,
finished my urban ministry training, so my seminary school. I graduated from seminary school. Um, met a lot of great, interesting people. Went to the board. That was an adventure, man. My board was way out. It was way out. So I got assigned an attorney. So you guys understand this as we're explaining what goes on in there. When you're prepping for the board, you go see a psych first, right? They assign you an attorney, then you go to your board hearing. When they assigned my attorney, I remember all that evidence and stuff that I had.
right.
I sent my attorney everything, all everything. I sent it all to him. Everything I had, details, pieces of got copies of birth certificate. I was sending the man a box of stuff. And I had little sticky tabs, telling him what everything was, explaining to him. That lawyer, whoever that person was, never met him because it was the wrong attorney. They got the wrong paperwork.
Oh,
I didn't send that. I didn't send that. I didn't send all my whole box of hope. You know what I mean? To a place that didn't
right.
exist.
Oh my
Never,
goodness.
never saw that stuff again. Uh, and I didn't even realize that until my attorney came to see me for my first attorney visit. I go
Right.
in there, I'm like, yeah, so like I explained to you in the letter I sent you, and I showed you this and this and this and this. He was
He's
like,
like,
I'm sorry, kid. I've never seen that stuff. You know what I mean?
oh my
I was like,
goodness.
wow, so it was a trip. But it turns out this is a brother in faith. He's a real charismatic brother. He
Mm,
had just got sat down by his ministry on the street because he was, dancing with the kids too much in the audience during service, and very charismatic. He had a ministry on the weekends where he would go to the park and set up huge speakers and do praise with Christian hip hop. And
mm,
it's very interesting how that happened. He was a really, really good guy, man. And very brave in the faith. I learned so much from him. He was like, "Listen, man, we're gonna go in here. Just you stay faithful. I didn't have the stuff you sent me, but it's okay. Let's just pray on it, and we're gonna do it." And he kept pumping me up in the Lord. And I said, "This is the guy. This is who I'm supposed to be with right here." You know what I
right.
mean? It was intense, bro. And I never forget when day of my hearing, I had this aggressive correctional officer who was trying to throw me off. He was
Mm,
doing some way out stuff, bro. This guy was wild. I sit down in there. He's taking a microphone, and while he's adjusting the mic that's in front of me for the board hearing,
mm,
he's like trying to put it in my mouth and be all weird. Like it was crazy. This guy was like sex playing me, bro. Like
right.
before my hearing, it was
Trying to throw
wild.
you off, like you said.
Yeah, bro, he was doing the most crazy stuff. He sat me in the hallway instead of putting me in the room. So when the day and everybody gets there, they're all like shuffling, trying to get by me, saying, "Excuse me," they're bumping into my legs. It was crazy. The
Mm,
amount of ways he he was trying to throw the hearing off. But
Right.
I had this faithful attorney who was he was with all the smoke. I never
Mm.
forget, my tuning certificate wasn't in my packet because it didn't come in the mail. It didn't come in the mail. I got the
Mm-hmm.
papers and I graduated, but I didn't have my nice certificate
Right.
for my paperwork. And this attorney, I remember I showed it to my attorney. He said, "Oh, when'd you get this?" I said, "I got it last night. Yeah, I didn't get it in my papers." "Oh, don't worry, I got you." You know what he went and did? He went and knocked on the DA's door. He went and knocked on the DA's door, and he said, "Sir, why are you not?" Well, he's like, what do you need here?" He said, "I want to show you this. Like his seminary certificate came last night. I
Oh
want to
my
give that to
goodness.
you." He was
Right.
way out, bro. He was such a really empowered brother in the faith. You couldn't shake him. You know what I mean? He was unshakable. Um, and so he empowered me. It gave me hope, encouragement after the officer was doing so much crazy stuff to me, man.
Right. Right.
It was
Right.
so funny. We go in there, bro. We had that hearing, bro. It was like the questions they were answering me, were asking me like way out. I couldn't prepare
Mm.
myself for that. But we were
Right.
going through the hearing, and uh, I was being super honest, bro. They asked me questions about my past. They're like, "Where did all this anger come from? How could you go from being a regular kid playing sports to committing a murder? How this happened?
Mm.
Taking a
Right.
life. Like, what was that?" And it was like, I told them my whole story, bro. The depraved mind I had as a youth. One of the darkest stories I had to tell him was about, I always had a fascination with guns and things as a young person.
Mm.
I used to have a pellet gun, an air rifle. It was a gun for hunting quails.
Mm.
And back in the height of the crack epidemic, there'd be so many addicts in the alleys, my neighborhood, smoking and warming their hands in trash cans and that they made fires in and stuff. I would literally cut a hole in the screen of my window,
You was
and I would,
popping at him with the
oh, bro, I was getting into the business.
that's messed up.
And I remember the when I said that, bro, that the commissioner's eyes got big. She says, "You did what?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I used to do." She said, "That's horrible." I said, "Yes, ma'am.
Right.
It was horrible, but that's the depraved mind, and that's how I deal with my hurt. And
Right.
it was a bad way to deal with my hurt and my pain, but that's how I dealt with it without having an outlet. That was one of the darker things I had to tell the board about. My as a young person, how I had that bad thinking patterns. But I was very forthright, very honest. And I remember at the end of the hearing, bro, I was like worn out. I didn't have no energy. I could barely breathe after the hearing. And I felt like, in my mind, seeing things from my fleshly eyes, how, after all that, you get kind of intimidated. I kind of felt like I was going to get a 3-year denial, which was the Lord's denial, 3, 5, 10, and 15.
Mm. Right.
And uh, I looked at my attorney. I remember I was going to ask him, "So how do you feel it went?" When I went to speak, he said, "Let's pray." And I remember
Mm.
he just prayed over me, like, and then prayed with me at the same time. And that was it. He wasn't talking about nothing else. When we came out of prayer, he was like, "Yeah, man, the Lakers, man, watching Kobe." And he wouldn't allow any lack of faith to enter into the equation.
Right.
Taught me so much. In that short time me and him were together, he really kind of changed me as a Christian.
Mm.
How I see faithful things. You know what I mean? There's there when we live in the love of Christ, the Word of God tells us that it says that there is no fear in love because perfect love casteth out fear, and we have that perfect love in Jesus. And that was he didn't say it, but I knew that's why he wouldn't allow me to speak anything that wasn't faith. He did not want
Mm.
any fear to enter into that moment. He didn't want no
Right.
fear in the air, in the atmosphere. He wouldn't allow it. We go in there, bro. They told me I was suitable, bro, to come home.
Ooh, man.
I was just like, I just couldn't believe it, bro. I was just like, it was just a moment, a life changing moment. It wasn't only about getting free, because one thing the Lord put in my heart, and something I never learned in any class, the Lord told me, He said, when you go in there, speak for your victim. Let the day be about.
Mm.
Don't go
Right.
in there trying to get free, son. Like the Lord was like, son, they told me, son, go in there and advocate for your victim. Go in
Mm.
there and speak for your victim. Go in there and speak for not just that one victim, but for the other people you hurt, the people you disappointed, the people who invested in you as a human being and you let down. Go speak for all the people who were affected by your rebellion against me. Because Lord made me know that it was really all that I was doing was rebelling against His calling on my life. That's
That's
what I.
deep.
That's how it happened. It was a rebellion against God, and it resulted in hurt and death and bad influence and corrupting other people's character, and it resulted in all the things that the Word of God says will happen when we go against Him. And He said, just go and speak for the people you hurt, but most importantly, speak for the victim who lost their life.
Mm,
And
that's
speak.
deep. That's
Um,
deep. Was
yeah.
it like, because for me, it was like a surreal moment when they told me, we're finding you suitable for parole. We feel that you're no longer a danger to society.
Mhm.
It was like everything went in slow motion. Was it like that for you?
Yes. Yes, it was. Everything started moving really slow. Um, and I remember the DA. The DA was said that she found no reason. She said, "I have no objections to him being found
Mm,
suitable. He has insight, and he's being honest."
mm,
And I remember she said that to me it confirmed my faith in what God was doing in my life when she said
right,
that. And I knew I was going to be okay in life, because I think for those of us as Christians, bro, we get into an honest, vulnerable place with ourselves, and we kind
right,
of realize that when we weren't walking with the Lord, we weren't okay, we weren't safe for ourselves or for others,
further,
and there's a part of us that even in prison, like, we want to be safe. I don't want to be on the street and out here in life, um, a danger to myself and others again. I didn't want that for myself.
mm,
And the Lord told me through her statement that I wasn't, and I was going to be okay, and I was going to be okay out here.
that's
And it gave
crazy,
me another level of faith. You know what I mean? Like another
man.
level of faith. And not only was I suitable in the world's eyes, that in God's eyes, I was going to be okay.
Ooh, man. So let's kind of summarize where we're at to this point.
Uh-huh.
You done got a life sentence. You done went through all kind of changes. You worked your way from a level 4 to a level 3 to a level 2. You were going through the commutation process. All the whole while, God is working in you, making changes in you, changing who you are, changing how you think, how you feel. You never lost hope that someday it would be possible to go home. You get a commutation, which allows you to go before the parole board a whole lot sooner than you would have otherwise. You now sit in front of this parole board. They determine that they're going to recommend to the governor that you be set free. Obviously, because you're sitting here, the governor agreed. You got set free. Now you're out here in the world. What year did you get out?
I got out. Now this is a trip, bro. I got to tell. I got to say something else. I'm not going long on and on, bro. But I got to explain that the right way, because when I
Okay.
got my date, and when they realized the governor was not going to challenge it, right? Because everybody
Mm,
knows, once you get a date, there's about a 6 month period of waiting, because the
right.
governor gets to review. The board gets to review
Mm-hmm.
the decision, and the governor gets to review the decision. Either
Mm-hmm.
the governor will take no action, or he'll deny it, or he'll say let him go. The governor, in
Right.
my case, said he's not taking any action. My counselor, who's the one whose job it is to set up all of my, take my parole plans and make them actionable and get me a parole agent and all that, was on
Right.
vacation.
Oh my goodness.
On vacation. Yeah. So watch this. I'm I am literally at my job one day. Miss Beverly Hanson, the lady I told you took that interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
She calls from the other prison and says, "Guess what? You're going home on Monday, probably." And I was like, it was like a Friday. I'm like, "What?" She said, "You." She said, "You are you telling me no one's told you that the government not taking any action on your case?" So she knew. She had a whole other prison than she knew.
Right.
And I got up. I said, "Let me go to my counselor. Counselor's door is locked. Counselor's gone."
Oh.
It was wild, bro. So like, uh, what happened was they had to rush a packet together for me,
Mm,
find me a parole agent. On Monday, they gave me, it was like Tuesday. And the lock we go on lockdown for what's called rolling blackout sometimes when
right.
we went on a lockdown for rolling blackout, like a 2-day lockdown. They called me
Ooh.
they called me to the office, gave me my parole packet. I'm in the cell just looking at it. I'm mesmerized, bro. I'm like, what is this? Usually
Right.
a counselor goes over it with you.
Right.
I had no counsel to go over anything with me. So I think one of the secretaries who worked in the captain's office tried to help me go through it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is
Mm.
what you got to do. Call him,
Mm.
do this. And so I
Right.
went in the cell and I hand wrote my own like emergency list of people to call.
Mm.
They're part of my
Right.
parole plans. I put it in there. I made a 3-ring binder for myself to have. You know what I mean? My birthday was on a Wednesday, May 17th, 2018. May 18th, the next day, they cracked that door and came and got me, bro.
Ooh.
It was wild, man.
Man, that's crazy.
Wild, bro. Wild, bro. Wild experience. Oh, and then before that, I was a Toomey graduate, right? So I'm supposed to have funding for housing through them, which was what I really
Mm.
wanted, which was what I really wanted. And for some reason, something happened with their money stuff, and they went under audit, and so I no funding. So I
Mm.
go to the L-top room and all these resources, and I wrote Amity. I wrote Amity. We all know Amity. I wrote Amity. I wrote a couple different houses, but I wrote a program in San Diego called the Training Center, right? And that was Pastor Dennis Martinez ran that program. Got to talk about Dennis in this story, who I love, who's been a great mentor to me, helped me in so many ways. When I started CrossFit, Pastor Dennis, bro, he's been a great support. I remember at the Exposure 2020 event, that's a female skate contest. That's kind of fast forwarding, but I had a skater representing my company on that in that event, and Pastor Dennis, bro, walked me, you know, and introduced me to all the big dogs in the industry, and was like,
Mm.
"Welcome to the industry." You know, Pastor, I love you, Pastor Dennis. You know, you've done so much for me. But I wanted to go back to this first thing he did. I wrote him a letter. He accepted me, gave me an acceptance letter. And then so when I come home, I get out, I didn't realize there were no more payphones out here. And I remember I got to San Diego. Well, first we get to them come get me out of my cell, walk me out the prison. It was so crazy how easy it was. It was like they could have been walked me up out of here. Walked me out of here so easy. Walked me out the prison, gave me a train ticket. That was a half a train ticket and half an Amtrak ticket, half a bus ticket. I took a bus, took a train, got to San Diego. My first meal on the train was a hot link sandwich. And put that out there
That's right.
on the coastliner Amtrak hot link sandwich with a soda pop and a bag of chips. Um, got to San Diego, had no idea what I was doing. I'm out there just stranded, bro. I got anxiety going from my toes to my forehead, up and down. I don't know what to do. I called Pastor Dennis while he's at dinner with his family. I'm like, "Hey, Pastor Dennis, I'm here." He was like, "What do you mean you're here?" I was like, it was so
Who
funny.
is this?
It was so funny. I'm like, "I'm here." I'm like, "Oh, this is Hamid Bashir. He wrote me to come back and come to your program." And he was like, "What?" He was like, where are you?" I'm at the train station. I'm talking on the taxi cab driver's phone. He was laughing. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna send somebody to come get you, man. I'm gonna send somebody to come get you. You just sit tight." And he sent one of his assistants to come down there and get me. And I pulled up to the training center. And I'm like, "Is Pastor Dennis here?" They were like, "No, he's not here." And then they're like, they gave me some clothes out the clothing closet. Remembering all this first day out was just way out, man. What a great program. The training center was a blessing, bro. It was one of my first great blessings on this side of the wall. Um, got me to get my first clothes, good meals, Bible studies, helped us get our first ministry opportunities, ministering to the kids in the Salvation Army once a week. Got our first IDs, our first job interviews. The training center in San Diego was it was a godsend, man. I was so happy to be there.
Mm.
My first night home, I was full of anxiety. I was just so much anxiety and like I couldn't sleep. Brother Greg from Pillar of Fire. So fast forward, the church we were telling you guys about, Pillar of Fire. Uh, Flash the T-shirt again, why not? Pillar of Fire, right?
That's right.
Had Pastor Danny, who I told you was taking care of me after the riot. He had started the church in Shelltown in San Diego, and Brother Greg, Deacon Greg, and Pastor Harry Grant, who's now my brother-in-law, uh, came and prayed over me in the courtyard of the training center, calmed me down, um, loved on me, gave me some money or something. They gave me whatever I needed. The brothers had my back, you know.
Right.
And I went upstairs and took a big bubble bath. Because I ain't took a bath in years. I forgot. I said, dang,
Man, what
I
is
ain't
it
took a
like to
bath
take a
in almost
bath?
20 years. You know what I
Man,
mean?
that's crazy.
Took a big bubble bath. Man, it was a trip. Linking up with my family. Uh, my family really right. If anybody out there, real quick, I want to holler about what it takes to make a positive transition on the other side of the
Mm,
wall. And this is a shout out to anybody who has family in prison. No matter how you feel your family member was living while he was on the streets, where they did get locked up, they can make it if you support them. I want to say that real quick.
yes,
If
absolutely.
you support them and help them and assist them, while also hold them accountable, they can make it out here. And
Right.
that's such a great support team out of my family. I want to shout out my Aunt Holly, my mom, my Uncle Albert Humphrey, for sure. My Uncle Albert, man, had my back like no other. He drove out here from Vegas, took me shopping at the outlets in San Diego, got me all my first gear, had me geared up.
Mm,
Uncle Al had me geared up. Uh, um, Blessed financially. He made sure I was straight. Made sure he always picked up my phone when I called. Uncle Al was sending me like $300 every week. You know what I mean?
woo,
For a minute, bro. Uncle Al just made sure he knew what you needed to be out here. You know what I mean?
right.
It's not even about even having the money. The money was just to make sure I had my needs, but also so I can make
Yes.
mistakes too. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
Overspend sometimes, not budget right.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
mm,
Uh, but Uncle Al really took care of me. Him and his wife Trisha, my cousin Hakima, who I helped raise, she was one of the first people to come see me. No, she was the first person to come see me. My cousin Hakima took the Amtrak from San Francisco to San Diego to come see me.
dang.
His mom drove up, blessed me with money, got me my first cool cell phone, a nice Samsung
Mm,
phone.
right.
My auntie sent me money from Tennessee, made sure I was okay spiritually, pillar of fire, had my back, made sure I had a place to worship, a place to serve the Lord, made me a deacon and an elder, eventually to pastor to where I am now. Um, uh, to a associate pastor. We have a head pastor.
Right.
And I'm a traveling, what you call a traveling pastor. Uh, um, just a great experience, bro. And then that comes where I got to talk about skateboarding a little bit because I had so much anxiety to leave the facility. Um,
Mm-hmm.
while I was in jail, in prison, I was in an AA class, one of the steps talks about um, being restored to your sanity.
Right.
And I asked myself before I was in the insanity of criminal addiction, who was I? Like, who was I before I was literally criminally nuts, right?
Mm,
I remember myself so vividly on Sycamore in West LA in my mom's apartment, sitting on her steps on my skateboard. That was like my best vision. Because I remember, to me, a skateboard represented freedom, represented expression, represented fun time. So I could do it
right.
myself. And I never, growing up, I didn't have a lot of money to maintain those kind of hobbies. But I remember my friend Effion, he gave me my first board,
Mm,
A Veriflex with this crazy graphic of this little baby wrapped in barbed wire. The skateboard graphics are wild, bro. Especially
right.
back then in the '80s. And he was a kid whose parents worked really hard to take really good care of him, and he always wanted to share with me because I didn't have that much. And I remember he snuck me that board, and then his parents like they were mad he gave him the skateboard, but then they realized no, give it back. So that was my first skateboard I had for myself. Was his orange.
Mm,
And I wanted to get back to that happiness. And the Lord said, "Hey man, you go. Hey, get you a skateboard. You're gonna be all right. Build yourself back out." So I went to Spring Valley Swap Meet San Diego, got me a Vision skateboard, and I would skate up and down the street, around the neighborhood, while I didn't have a job or nothing. Teach myself how to ollie. Started going to the skate parks. Went and saw Christian Soy preach at one of the skate parks in San Diego. Uh, Saw Tony Hawk skate live at Linda Vista skate parks. Just being myself, and it felt good to be myself like that. It really felt good and healing just to be Jesus and skateboarding. I went back to school for design. That's where I designed this logo. I got this logo
mm,
written. I own this copyright. It's called the
right.
Skate Man logo. Uh,
Mm,
Patent pending. Washington, up in Washington, you know what I mean?
right.
Started CrossFit Borco. This is a hoodie I made for my daughter for her birthday. Um, so we are. That was a great beginning there, coming out of prison. So let's talk about my daughter, my wife, and my present life and what I'm doing now. Can I get to that, Jim? I want to get to that.
Absolutely. Tell us about Faith Skater Ministries, man. What you got going on?
Yeah, I want to get to all of that, bro. So, Faith Skater Ministries is the ministry division of CrossFit Borco. It launched out of Pillar of Fire Church. We had our first event at Blue Skate Park back in 2020. Beautiful event, prayer ministry giveaway. Gave away some boards and decks and gear for best trick and stuff like that. Um, really a great time in my life beginning there. I began teaching kids the fundamentals, skateboarding, and that's I know I'm jumping all around, but I want to talk about that though. So my pastor, Harry Grant, who I talked to you guys about, came and prayed over me, who's also a new folks. And you may know my brother-in-law too if you see him. Um, he called me out of the blue one day and was like, I want you to give my niece a skateboarding lesson. And so I go over there and meet this beautiful young girl, little looked like a little angel, who wanted to learn how to skateboard. And go over there and hang out with her. I meet her. Her name was Brooklyn. And we spent the day skateboarding, teaching the fundamentals of skateboarding and all that. We bonded really, really close. Um, and when you're with the young people, it's a ministry that requires lots of care and lots of maturity and lots of responsibility, right? So um, I felt the need to reach out to her mom and let her know about the day we had and some of the things we shared and how it went. And so I reached out to meet the mother, and we talked on the phone a couple of times and got a good vibe from her. And ended up making sure I got the girl a good skateboard and put some good wheels on there, good trucks, and set up with her first board. And didn't see the girl anymore, and kind of wondered how she was doing and everything. And one day, the opportunity came to meet the mom. My
Mm,
pastor hooked it up that I could meet the girl's mom. Quiet as kept. I'm married to the mother today, and that girl's my daughter today.
that's
And
right.
we also have a young son, Ezekiel, today. Awesome wife, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist who runs a business called New Creation Therapy. This is her hoodie right here, New Creation Therapy. Um, and she's doing a great job, and we got a good marriage here. But it wasn't easy to get married coming out of prison, not
Right.
having too much finances and things like that. um, I moved out to Ventura where they lived, where we began our marriage, and eventually moved to Lancaster where she's from, and that's where I
Right.
got to
Let,
reunite with my brother
let me
Jim.
let me let me do something really quick
All right.
because you mentioned some of the outreach stuff that Faith Skater Ministries does.
Mhm.
Blessing kids with boards at events.
Mhm.
I know you pass out Bibles. You got your design stuff going. You just talked about how it was difficult, how it is difficult sometimes financially to be the head of a family and to do the work of the ministry and to bless others and all that. So while you continue telling your story, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop Hamid's Cash App on there. Y'all see it scrolling across the bottom. If you appreciate what he's been talking about, if you appreciate the work he's doing, go ahead and drop him a little something. That's going to help Faith Skater Ministries to continue with what he does. That's going to help him and his family continue to do what they do. And you, my brother, please just continue on with your story. I'm going to let this scroll for the duration of our time talking here. If you feel anybody feels like they want to bless his ministry, bless his family with a little something, there's the Cash App right there. Please continue, my brother.
Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you, Jim. Thank you so much. Um, and that's where me and Jim get reunited back. So um, Jim reaches out to me when I move out to to Lancaster, California, for the first time. I'm out there at skate parks, meeting everybody, Bible ministry, reaching out to young people out in the city. Um, man, it was interesting. I've been grinding, really taking care of my family by doing Instacart runs. When my wife and I met, I was doing Instacart. And when we clicked up, I was doing Instacart. She was doing pizza deliveries and going to school to finish her training for to be a therapist. And it was a hard grind. And I remember having opportunities to do certain things and where they just didn't feel right. I got an opportunity to work in the juvenile hall in Camarillo as like
Mm,
a night watchman, almost like someone, walk around the facts, like watch the kids, and then also be like a pod peer a pod support to where you're in the pods with the young people, making sure no fights are breaking out, being like a positive influence in there. I had opportunities to get some good jobs, but for some reason the Lord just kept me on the grind. Lord kept me grinding, doing Instacart, not taking that career step just yet. So I'm just, dropping off food for people and hustling off my phone, and I'm making pretty good money. Not bad, we stayed afloat for a long time, for about a year and a half, just doing Instacart, and my wife doing pizza, and started getting our first jobs as a therapist. And when we moved to Lancaster, I was still grinding like that, still grinding like that, ministering through Faith Care whenever I could. um, you know, um, Jim hits me up one day and he's like, "Hey, I'm working at a place called the Catalyst Foundation. We provide services for social services for the homeless, the reentry population. We're out here doing good work in the community. Come by and check us out." Um, Brother Jim, definitely moved by the love of Christ. Allows me to turn in my resume and whatnot. I get an interview. Place feels like home. It feels right. I got my first gig at the Catalyst Foundation. I just want to plug the Catalyst. Got the, you know,
that's right.
got to plug the fam. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Catalyst family. Shout out to Dave Mayshore. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Melissa. Shout out to all the fam. I can't name everybody, but shout out to all the whole family. Shout out to definitely Ruby who trained me up and got me right.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, and shout out to Teresa and Desmond, Lisa, all the family, man. I love you guys so much. Rashid, Gabby, everybody at the Catalyst, man. I love y'all. Um, uh, and it was interesting, to have a professional job. My first great responsibility, I never forget. Um, was going to court. I never forget going to court with somebody, going to court
Mm,
with participants, man. And Jim give me kind of the script. Jim like, "Oh, you do this, that, bam. Take this letter with you." It's like really like you really. I was really thrown in the mix to like this very important role of advocate for. So what we were doing in when I first got there, I worked for the WHO department, where my job was to really um, assist men and women who are formerly incarcerated do all the basic things and prepare themselves for those greater steps in life. So we would get their
right.
identification. We would work on getting them employed, getting them housed, work on getting them back in school, work on a host of different social issues to assist them to get their lives together. Hopefully, we can get them some rental assistance going and get them help them with sobriety helps, get them mental health treatment, help them with child services investigations. Very in depth stuff. Very where we could use our backgrounds as credible messengers to assist people. To the point to now where now I'm not in that department anymore. I'm a youth advocate, man. I work with transitional age youth between the ages of 18 and 26, to where I do trauma healing classes with them, and we do cognitive behavioral therapy and healing circles, where we work out our lives from beginning to end. What have we been through? What we've been through? How's it affected us? How does it trigger us in our thoughts, our decision making, our belief systems? How can we improve our decisions by changing some of these ways we believe? That's what the Yo program, bada bing, bada boom, right here. This youth overcoming program. You
That's
know,
right.
we got that at the Catalyst Foundation right now. Shouts out to my co-facilitator Lisa, who is amazing, and we are all working together to help these youth in the Antelope Valley to heal from their hurts, their pains, their tragedies, and take their hurts, pains, and tragedies and turn these things as the stepping stones to triumph. And the beautiful part about it is that Jim and myself, when we work in these environments, while this is not a Christian company or a Christian movement, we are able to be Christ-like examples and help to be a light for the gospel in these places, and to help people stay out of the darknesses of life, stay out of the places where they're addicted, stay out of the places where they're hurting, and while at the same time working in ministry, Jim is also, laying it down, doing this thing with Victory Outreach Palmdale, playing a big part in the ministry there. I'm still a pillar of fire, also with UCLG in LA, and Faith Skater, of course, and being a husband to my wife Randy, being a father to my children Brooklyn and Ezekiel, just doing the best I can to walk in the Lord's will for my life, man. And I have a great family. I came home from prison. My mother, no, my grandmother, my grandfather had passed away, who I talked to you guys about, who I was living with when things were hard. And the Lord blessed me with a new family. I have my mother who's still with us. I have a mother-in-law, Janet, a father-in-law, Randall, awesome sister-in-law named Erica, a beautiful brother-in-law named Harry, a little nephew named Hale. My life is great, man. I live a really, really good life. Really blessed today. And the Lord is continuing to find ways to use me for His kingdom work, and I can't say enough about uh, the blessing I live in every day. When I get off the phone here, I'm going to walk out of this room and go lay down and watch TV with my best friend. So
It's really amazing the journey that God has taken you through, from growing up in LA and going and spending some time in another state because it was rough, and then coming back and going to prison, and bringing you to now where you are the head of a household, married, dad, just living blessed, bro. And our friendship is very important to me. I'm very honored to call you my friend, to call you my brother, to have you as a co-worker, and just have had this time to share what God has done in your life, taking you literally from a pit and placed you in a palace. And when I talk about a palace, I don't necessarily mean a literal palace, but just being in the goodness of God, and being able to reap the blessings that come with serving Him and what He's done in your life. I'm amazed all the time, because I've being an ex-lifer myself and knowing what it's like to come from that to where we're at now, and being in the position we're in to be able to help people, to help others. And I appreciate you shouting out everybody at Catalyst, shouting out the staff. We definitely try to do the best that we can there to help people. I'm very grateful for your ministry, for Faith Skater, for what you got going on. I want to encourage everybody that's watched. If you hung in for the whole 2.5 hours, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you were going to watch a little bit every day and make your whole week go by like it's a movie or something, we appreciate you stopping in, checking it out. If it's on your heart, I really, really do hope that you'll take the time to drop a little something in my brother's Cash App to help grow his Faith Skater ministry, to allow them to keep doing what they do. Yeah, man, thank you so much for your time, bro. Thank you for stopping in. We definitely are going to have a follow-up. One of these days, we'll do a live where people can come on and ask some questions about your story, about what's going on with you. Before we go out, let me get you to tell the people, where can they find you? Shout out your social media platforms. If people want to connect with you, let them know where you at on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever it is you got going. Let us hear it real quick.
definitely, if you want to connect with me and link up with me and my wife Randy on the Skater Ministries, we're definitely down to do a Boards and Bibles event, share the gospel, do some homeless outreach, youth outreach. We're definitely down to click up and collaborate with you guys on that. I can be reached all the time at Faith Skater Ministries on Instagram. You can also hit my email, crossflipboardco@gmail.com. Uh, those are probably the two best places to reach me at. If you want to link up and collab on something, I'm always down to collaborate and do something good for the people. Sharing the gospel, reaching out, doing hour-long seminars on different mental health topics and things like that with Faith Skater. We're down to assist. So let us know what you want to get into. Jim, thanks for having me. I appreciate you, bro. I want to again shout out to everybody who's always had love for me and helped me over the years, and in the church, outside the church, in the skate community, outside the skate community. Like some people I didn't mention, I wanted to. Quick shout out to I want to shout out to my boy Ish in San Diego real quick. Jim Ish was the first person to put a cross flip board in his skate shop, bro.
Mm.
Ish Exclusive is a skate shop in San Diego, California, in Spring Valley. That like it's a OG skate shop. It's got one of the most like largest inventories of dope gear and dope skate gear. And like my first skateboard design real quick, right, was like it was the Evangelist One is what I entitled the deck. And it had John 3:16 in huge letters on the bottom. It had Jesus Saves on the board, you know what I mean? And to me, you know to be like a secular skate shop that had like all like the traditional brands, Vision, Power Peralta, and like even all some of the newer brands. He took my board, bro, and he put it like right at the top. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I'll never
Nice.
forget seeing that in It's Exclusive in San Diego. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for that, Ish. Had to shout you out. Also want to shout out Arts and Rec Skate Shop. Um, Bro, they used to let me come in there and skate the mini ramp when it wasn't open. You know what I mean? Just loving on me, bro. Shout out to Johnny, Joey, Sarah. You know what I mean? Everyone who had love for me and took time to embrace me when I wasn't the greatest skater, but just loved to skate. Just being a friend to me and just staying down for me and letting me be around. Man, I love you guys so much. I love the church. Love you, Jim. It's been
Love
a
you too,
great
brother.
experience, bro. Appreciate you so much,
For
brother.
sure.
I'm happy your platform is growing. Change Man for Life. Please support what my brother Jim is doing because he's doing what he set out to do. When Jim told me he wanted to really put more effort into growing his platform, he said, "You know what I want to do, bro? I just want to give people hope. I want to give people hope who may have had family in prison, been in prison. You know what I mean? Been in gangs, been in the streets." Who may not even understand how they can change or if they can change. I want them to see
Right.
change, bro. I want them to have hope. I want people to have hope for their family, friends, and loved ones. And even if people aren't from that life, I just want to share stories of hope for people to have hope, man. So I think what you're doing is commendable, Jim. It's definitely inspired by the Holy Spirit, and I'm proud to see you really growing your platform, bro. I can't wait till you
I
have 1 million
appreciate
followers.
I appreciate that, man, and I appreciate you letting the people know because that's what it's about. That was the whole point of this interview, and what the point of following interviews with different people are going to be is to give hope. You can see where this brother, he shared a story where he came from, what he's been through, to where he's at now, and if God can do it in the lives of men like myself and Hamid, He can do it in you as well. I got
Yeah.
some other people lined up. They're going to be coming on the From the Pit to the Palace series. I got a next Celly of mine that's going to come on. He was a lifer. Got some sisters from the church that are going to come on. We're just going to try to keep doing this every couple of weeks with a different inspirational story of how God has taken somebody from the pit and placed them in a palace. Thank you, my brother. We're definitely going to talk again soon. Thank you for everybody that checked the video out. Be sure to subscribe, like, share. Check my boy out on Instagram. Hit him up, drop a little something in his Cash App, that Faith Skater down there below. Everybody have a blessed day or night, whatever time it is that you're watching the video. God bless you. Jesus loves you, and so do I. We're out.
Peace and love. God bless y'all. Stay encouraged. Jesus over everything.
Amen.
Man.